So ready? Okay.
All set?
All right, welcome everyone. Tonight is our last budget session. We had our first budget session last Wednesday before our board meeting. And this is our second budget and last budget session, of which we will begin with the planning and development department, which I believe, Ann, you're going to give the presentation on that.
Sure, I can do that.
If you're all right with that.
Hear about it? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So this will be the planning and development department along with the planning board and zoning board. So we met with Lisa, who else did we meet with? I can't
It was you, me, Doug, and Lisa,
Yeah.
just
okay.
four of us. Yep.
Different items. The first two pages of the packet that you have will be the revenue pages. Those are the 4.4s.
Mhm.
So those are your two revenue. Nothing has changed. The only change, I think, with building permits, the suggestion was to go to 60,000 instead of 65,000 based on what they are forecasting, what they see coming next year. The only significant, I think solar was maybe a $20,000, and then the others we're going to take out will be down a little bit, so that's what I'm going with that.
Mhm.
And then your zoning fees and planning board fees remain the same.
Yep.
Then you go into your planning and development budget, so that's your basically in-house, your staff in-house. Your point ones, as the supervisor had indicated, it would be a 2% increase at this point for the staff. There is a question mark next to the line. You'll see the code enforcement officer. Obviously, we don't have an individual in that position right now. We are working on that. So that's sort of an open item in that line in your 100s.
Yep.
So then if you move down to your point 4, your contractual, you do have your engineer in there, depending on what happens for the new year, but that's the line item for Miller Engineering for the services they provide to the planning board.
Right.
And zoning board and planning office. Comprehensive plan, year 2 is in there. I talked to Councilor Bollinger about some of these items. Along with your CFA Climate Smart Sustainable grant. And you'll notice that there's an offsetting revenue. You'll see that when we get further into the budget process, you'll see that on the revenue page. So that will offset that 44,500. As you move through the remaining planning and development budget, there are very few changes. Your office supplies, the trainings that they attend, association dues, those all remain the same. If you do go over to the information technology, the 0.405, there are a couple of open items there. We're waiting for the MapLink annual contract and the civil space contract. Well, we're trying just to confirm what the renewal rates will be. So there is a placeholder there for that. I will add those obviously prior to next week's budget. There are 2 tablets in here for the code enforcement officers. You'll see we're waiting for a price confirmation. Kay is doing some research right now to find pricing for that. That allows the code officers, when they're in the field, to conduct business. It links here to the office. They do need to be updated. The ones that we have are no longer compatible.
There it goes.
Technology
I was gonna
goes.
say, how often do we hear that? No
Like
longer
every year.
compatible.
It's supposed to be about every 5 to 7 years, but it seems to be every 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, too often. So that's the only increase in that line there. The next, with your planning and development phone, you do reimburse currently your code officer and your deputy code officer a percentage of their phones. There is a question mark there for an additional individual. That's, they're open for discussion. Could the board be interested in one of the staff members also being reimbursed? I think you need to look at that then probably across the board because, other departments have a similar. So we'll leave that as an open item right now for further conversation.
Yep.
Your uniforms and cleaning, there's no changes there. The Central New York Stormwater Coalition, your public outreach, that's a year-over-year charge that all the towns and villages that really participate in that program. So that is your planning and development. Next, you go over to the planning board budget. There is the only change was an increase In the advertising budget, Lisa indicated that there has been, significant advertising costs this year for many things, so that was just a $200 increase. And when you go down to attorney, if you see the BSF, that's Baldwin Sutton for Teskey, shortened that for planning attorney. Of course, those items too would still be open based on board review and contracts for the new year.
Right.
The zoning board of appeals. There is one change when Ed and I met with Councilor Ballinger. I think Sarah was with you, correct? With an increase in the per meeting rate that the zoning board chairman and the members receive. Currently, the chairman, I believe, was $111.
Yeah.
We're not sure where historically that came from. So, and obviously they are busier, so we increased that to $125. And the ZBA members were, I believe, $83 again, an odd number, so that went up to 100.
Rounding things off.
Yeah.
And then we kept the extra meetings for ZBA.
At this
They
point.
did use them.
They did, yeah, and that's always hard to forecast how many meetings we're gonna have, so.
I mean, we really, I think, have had one cancellation of each this year was all. Where they didn't need it.
Yeah. Okay.
The ZBA had a couple short meetings, planning board not so much.
Yeah, that's for sure. Okay.
And I think we had a decrease in office supplies. We haven't seemed to be using them. I spoke to Debbie today, the secretary to the zoning board. They do so much electronically submitting their packets to the board members, so that saves a lot on paper and other supplies. So really, it's just maybe maintenance when you have new members and maybe some small odds and ends. Training programs remain the same. Advertising for your legal notices, we did increase that, obviously, based on similar activity with planning board. And then your zoning attorney stands at the current 2021 rate, just like planning board, obviously pending any review or increases or changes there.
Yeah.
So that is where we stand today.
We need to appoint a member of the ZBA.
Well, yeah, at some point, and I think this was sort of the thought process. We can, what do we have, 5 on the CBA. So we have 4, so we have to worry about a quorum because no one's traveling, And the only thing is if we appoint someone now, we may or may not want to appoint that person again in January. So I meant to toss this out to you. What if we waited until the end of this year and then appoint someone in January?
To be effective January.
Yeah.
So we could do interviews in the fall.
Yeah.
Are there any more meetings?
The ZBA kind of winds down. They'll have a couple more swimming pools now, but they'll wind down.
And no one's going to Florida for the.
Well, honestly, now with the executive order or something, the update to the public meetings law, if someone does travel, they can zoom in.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So
So
I think that makes sense.
I just
Rather than
thought,
put someone in there for a short
yeah,
period.
if that makes sense, I think you're bringing it up, Sarah. I forgot all about it.
Yeah, so let's
Yeah.
figure out who's gonna do the interview cycle. We'll do the publicity that you did last time, like in the November or something, do interviews and then have it be effective January.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, if everyone's okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk to Caitlin too, but I assume
Yeah.
makes sense.
I mean, I feel it's only fair to the individual because you never know.
I had a question for Ann. Oh, hi. And when the code officer uses the car, where do those expenses for gas come out of?
We have a central garage, central line item for all of the town hall vehicles.
That makes sense. Got
As
it.
well as, so like gasoline comes out of there, as well as the gas, they get the gasoline over at the pumps at the police department.
Right.
So there's a central gasoline line item. Then we do have a line item for maintenance to town hall vehicles, which is separate from like police department or highway.
Right, makes sense.
So unfortunately, that has taken a hit, with a few repairs this past year. So
Yeah. Just a bit.
All right.
that's where those items are.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that? I know that.
Is-
It seemed to only make sense to bring those building permits down a little bit. We were only at like 31,500 year to date. That was think it was the end of August, possibly July, I forget what, so I think it makes sense, we're this far into it.
And they'll be lesser for the fall, so.
Yeah, right.
Well, it's a small adjustment too, so it's not anything drastic.
Yeah, not a big deal. I'm sorry, Heather, you.
No, I'm sorry. I was looking at the revenue page,
Oh.
the revenue page.
Mhm.
Did I miss that? Where?
The first page is the revenue page.
The first two pages are,
Yeah.
Oh, that's it.
your building permit fees, and then the
Yeah,
next.
that's the
would be your zoning
60,000.
and planning fees.
Got it. And you
Yeah.
said okay, great. So the 44,500.
You will not see that right here. Once you have, that's in a different line in the budget. It's in a different page. So each budget, AB, DA, and EB, the first page of those full budgets will be all your revenue codes for all the departments. We do need to establish a new code for that CFA grant.
Mhm.
So that is, Matt and I are working together to do that. So once you see the budget next week, you'll see that line item, you'll see that revenue amount in there.
Great. Thank you so much. You sort of got my question without me actually articulating it. I just realized that. That's amazing. Thanks.
All right. Anybody else?
And how is it going with the recruitment of a new code officer?
Kay is working right now to schedule the interview. We have a few steps. in the doodle
The new
program.
doodle.
Actually, I believe
I was-
it's scheduled for next week.
Do we need doodle training?
I was hesitant to open it because I'm hesitant to open anything.
But it's called doodle and it's
And I
training.
said, what's this doodle from Kay? Is this legit or what, you know? So, and then we did, and then the dates got a little messed
Listen,
up.
Garen is thankful that you asked the question first.
That's what I know I'm not passing that test very good, you know? But,
They have been coming pretty fast and furious. I get a ton of them.
yeah.
I mean, a lot of them come from, they're trying to pretend to be you.
Me, yes, in fact, I think, Ellison, you said you got an email.
Can you call me to get a gift
Yeah, I
card,
got
right?
Yeah, I saw that.
It's
Oh,
like,
Ed wants me to get a gift
Yes.
card for somebody?
you
What?
said we were gonna buy, I was supposed to buy something, for- I don't know what the
Yeah.
heck, it's like, what the heck?
Well, we got the word about the insistence on, from the university on updating all of our software on Apple products.
Oh,
Because there's a huge,
Oh,
there was
because of the
this,
Apple.
yeah, this
Yeah.
attack on Apple products. So you don't even have to click on the link and it'll just
Really?
infect. So that, yeah.
what I get a kick out of is on Facebook, I keep getting these invites to, you know, to want to be my friend. And I'm going, well, you already are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the doppelgangers.
It's
yeah.
constant though.
Yeah.
And what I always do, I always go check to make sure I already am. You
Yeah.
know? I go, did I forget that person? So, all right, so we have, I guess Rob's up next. We're done a little earlier than I thought.
Make it move up.
Okay, good.
Maybe.
Yeah, and the chief mentioned he'll probably get here. I said, you know, you can get here a little earlier, you know, because we were done in an hour, but again,
Yeah,
we didn't have the big,
real short.
the big budget items. Oh, yeah, he said he usually gets here earlier. So,
And is court the last item or, okay.
yeah, we were trying to work around, you know, their schedule, and we're not sure who's going to be here. You know, I know that, well, Bob has been working on the budget with Janet. But Janet has court over in Manoa tonight, so I know she
Yeah.
won't be here, you know, so we shall see.
Bob is in his office, coming to text him and see if he's coming over.
You can
Yeah,
probably get it done in 10 minutes before I would.
When do you want, when do you want it?
In his office, his.
Over in Manly's?
Okay, not here.
Oh, okay.
it's in Manlius office,
Yeah.
yeah. Just sort of nudge him a little bit to make sure he's
Just
gonna
remember
be
that
here.
he's presenting, because it was set last.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yes.
So what time?
Okay, great.
Well, he's supposed to go on at 5:30.
Yeah, they finished early.
Probably like 15 minutes early.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, maybe 5:15. That'll be good.
Sarah and I are well versed in the highway budget. So
Yes.
hopefully, Rob won't get too long.
I'll never forget the first time when Rob took over as superintendent, right? and a little different presentation than Bill Bennett used to give. And John Laughlin was like, my God, this is beautiful.
I can imagine.
It was all color coded.
Oh, no, he doesn't, or
You know.
she doesn't.
Yes, yeah. And he was just, he goes, and it got to be sort of a joke,
No.
because they have never seen anything so transparent, I guess you might say, you know.
So,
But yeah, one thing was,
I spoke, Rob will be here in just a second,
okay. I mean,
and the chief and Captain Schaefer are here.
oh, okay, see, they're really early. I'm not saying that the bill didn't give a good budget, but it was just different back then. You know?
Well, I mean,
Sustenance in the form
the
of
data
caffeine.
is, there's a lot there, and you know, you don't present it easily.
In fact, I think it was Rod that came up with the, doing the averages on the cost of salt.
Yeah.
Go over depending on the winters. you
That
know.
sounds like a great outcome from a training session.
Yes, yeah.
Cornell Roads.
Yeah. Worth
It
its
is,
weight.
you know, because we look at the rain this year, like it varies a lot what you have to do.
It does. It's interesting. It's a commodity too, right? So it's very interesting that,
It reminds me, I want to think about that letter about Fremont Meadows to Webb. I think we can gather all the emails I've been getting.
Right, we do
Yeah.
a lot.
And,
what's going on with
well,
the
they
flooding.
have, well, you know, the limestone
Yeah.
is right over there, and it starts to kick up
Yeah.
the odors.
Okay,
Yes.
Chief is coming in now, and Bob's coming at 5:15,
That's fine.
and we aren't sure where.
Rob will be here in just a second. He left.
Yeah, it
home.
should be here soon.
He left his home like
But it's
7 or 8
really-
minutes ago.
Every year when we get, it's usually springtime,
Yeah.
I get the emails, and then I reach out to Webb, and we reach out to the managers of the limestone. Oh, thank you. I only had one cup today. So-
You're good.
And, but it's really pretty bad over there. And
That's not great for quality of life. That's rough.
No, and and the county has ARPA money that is specifically for wastewater, so they can perhaps put some investment into that.
That's great.
And they
I
have-
was curious about that because I haven't seen in the budget where that is. So I was really, and for the proposals to see, and I heard about the sports complex, but I haven't
Yeah,
heard about the
good.
sewers.
Yeah, well, you know, and that may be something in my email or my letter about, you know,
Well, actually,
priorities.
did Ryan release the county budget?
And I spoke with,
Because it should be soon.
No, I just, the narrative about the plans, the highlights.
what's that?
They needed the chief to come in. They need about 10 minutes. We're gonna send them down since they're already here.
Rob will probably be here, so.
By then. So just have them
If
wait.
they're okay to wait, yeah, we'll see.
We have
Yeah, it's
nobody and then we'll
unclear.
have everybody.
But you know, the point that I think is really exciting and interesting is that local governments, county and the city all have funding. Guess what we all share? Pipes. This is like
And
the
some
one
aren't
time
so
we can get
good either,
together.
you know.
Yeah.
I
and
mean, the
this is-
city has wood pipes in some
Yeah.
places.
Well, that's what you call it, with the ARPA money for the county. I'm looking at it like, you guys just convinced us to lease to the sewers. Why don't you throw some of the money at the sewer?
Yeah,
Especially
absolutely.
over limestone.
It's a good
Yeah.
economic investment too.
Well,
So
and if-
anyway,
and
I
if
will
you
stop.
recall, when they came to us for them to take over, that was the big
They
selling
were gonna
point.
take.
That's what they
They were
Yeah.
gonna
they were
take
gonna
it, look
do.
at all the money they were going to approve, and then, of course, COVID. hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when Frank left and then Shannon came on board, we were talking about it, and their problem is that they are lacking the employees that they need to. So that'll be part of my letter. Are we still live?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so if county executive happens to overhear this,
Okay, I mean,
that'll be fine.
Yeah.
it's all about working together,
Yep,
right?
yep.
So that's a good thing to work
Maybe
on.
we'll go up to Fremont and recruit a couple people.
I just
Say, hey, can you go work on it?
Yeah, right.
Go get it.
Allison, do you mind if I grab the highway copies that you had there?
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
yeah.
I'll-
Probably bringing more.
Oh, great.
That's why Allison didn't realize that.
No, I know, that was great. I just
That's funny, I just noticed the two owls up there now on the screen.
Yep.
Flying owls.
I will say it was a tech support nightmare trying to get the new owl updated to the old
Oh,
owl.
well,
machine.
yeah, that was downloading for days, wasn't it?
I actually, what I had to do, I sent them the serial numbers and they did something with the serial numbers and then they were just like, try it again. And I was like, you're kidding me, right? And it was.
That doesn't make you worried about
So what was it?
surveillance at all.
I mean,
Was it the serial number with the issues?
I think, what I would imagine what they do is when they do updates like that, they roll it out in stages. So that like if they hit 10% of the people who have the device and it starts to fail, they didn't ruin everybody.
Wow.
And they were bought fair, because normally you would buy these one after the other
Oh,
or
I see.
together. So
Okay.
you'd probably end up in there.
Oh, all right.
That's my best guess.
Yeah, well, you're probably not
Listen,
too far
I
off.
went to the website, said, yes, I need help, and I got an email back in an hour, and I got an answer in 2 hours. So
Wow.
good.
That's good.
They should be coming to do a special, advertisement for municipal clients or something with us because we're such good clients of the owl.
I gotta say, too, I'm excited. I know I tried out the audio. If every AC is on full blast, it's still a little rough, but with just the one, I'm fairly
So are you
confident.
sure the sound is better now?
Yes, yeah, I tested it out before.
Are we?
Welcome back,
we're live.
Caitlin.
We're live.
Yeah.
Just so you know, we
we're
ripped the
waiting.
planning and development department just to pieces while you were
Oh,
gone.
good.
No, not really. It went very well. Ann did the presentation and it was very clear. It was good.
Good.
So
Are we waiting on?
we're waiting on highway. Rob's on his way down.
I'll use the ladies.
Sure,
It's been a
yeah.
very busy day.
Oh, here he comes.
There he is. Father of the groom.
No, the bride.
Oh, the bride?
Yeah, the bride.
Oh.
There were 2 weddings though, right?
What's
There are
that?
2
Father of the
weddings?
bride.
No, just the one wedding this year. 2 weddings last year.
Last
Oh,
year.
okay.
And a baby.
Yeah.
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 Is this changed all that from?
I don't believe so.
All right.
Okay, I've got it.
So,
You
I'll-
got it then?
Yeah, I'm all set.
Okay.
Thank
That
you.
one I don't have. Thank you.
I'll see you that one, but
I'll take the brand new one.
the new ones, you can write.
You haven't seen this, have you? Sarah?
Oh, no. Although if it's still the same as 2 weeks ago, that's pretty good.
I think it is. Well, that's what I'm hoping.
I don't like to see that.
I've got my scribbled out.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, I know. He keeps threatening her. She keeps threatening
But
us.
she won't.
She keeps trying every year. It's like, this is the end. And then every year Rob goes, yes, probably sometime in June or July, you know? But then one day she'll be gone. And we'll say, what happened?
Wasn't she gonna leave 5 years ago?
Yeah, right. Caitlin should be right back, Rob. It's It's tough taking.
Goggles on anyway, so it's see what we're here, so
What's that?
put my goggles on so I can see what I'm doing.
How's your arm doing?
Lot better than it was a few weeks ago, I can tell you that. I stay in tight, I'm good. Anything out here, it's gonna pull it down. Forget it.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess we can start right off.
Sure, go ahead.
Good.
Hopefully we all got an order here. I know when Johnny, Sarah and I did it, we had some pages of out of order, so hopefully we got that straightened out. But anyway, I'll start with the highway superintendent secretaries salaries. Basically what I did is just kind of put everything, we did contractual with guys, 2.5%, so we just kind of left that alone. We did keep the, for Tina's salary for the tree commission secretary, we left that in there. And obviously, as well, the board knows, Janet is probably most likely going to leave as secretary, most likely this year sometime. She said last year, she talked about it, and
Yeah.
every day more and more she talks about it, so.
As long as she's just talking about it.
Well,
that's okay.
exactly, as long as she keeps talking about it, I'm okay.
Yeah.
The reason why we did that was because we're gonna leave that money in there, kind of keep her on part-time and transition someone else
Right.
into that position.
Mhm.
So we thought just being safe by doing that. Other than that, the conferences, hopefully we're gonna have a fall conference this year, it's all tentatively going on, so. Hopefully Carl will put something on here in the spring, so. We left that pretty much going because of a $30 increase in dues, so that's why we moved that on, so. Moving along to page 2. This is where garage building expenses come in. So this is one of the the areas that I want to make sure that we talked about here tonight. This is the salt storage shed, as well as everyone knows. You know, it's getting past its time of life. The shed itself is not in good shape. So there's some concerns there, and I know everyone's aware of, we do have a fund, or a balance, an account for the salt storage shed, but unfortunately, with the increase in prices over the years, we haven't been able to keep quite up with that. So we're gonna run about probably $16,000 to $18,000 short of what we have. I know I talked to John and Sarah, and I think the thought behind this is to use some of the stimulus money to offset that difference. So I did put that in there, that $16,000 at this point. And again, it could be anywhere between that $16,000 to $18,000 range. I got a call this morning. I was able to talk to Sarah and John. And the company that we're actually working with, Eagle Associates, that have got the source one, which is the national contract for those. Come the 27th of this month, they're going to have an increase, a 20% increase in steel costs. So the steel girders and everything is going to go up 20%. So I looked at the numbers. We're looking at about a $30,000 increase if we don't lock in this year. And when I say that, I'm looking basically for the board's consent. And I need to probably do something at the next board meeting. I have to get your signature on a letter of intent with the Eagle Associates.
Yep.
So they know that we're definitely going to follow through with it. And they will hold the price is what they told us for this year.
Yeah.
So basically, I'm thinking somewhere between that $16,000 and $18,000 range.
Okay.
For the repair of that salt storage facility. Any questions on that at all?
Well, I would love it if we went through the whole thing and
Okay,
asked questions,
that's
just so we
fine.
don't slow you down,
No, that's fine.
if that's okay with everybody.
No, that's good.
No, that's
So actually, the building contractual stuff, obviously, there's concerns with the increase of, I don't know what bills at home are going up with your gas and electric bills and all those are going up. Rapidly. So we did increase that a little bit. It looks, you know, the percentages look a lot, but when we look at the actual number of $5,500 across the board, that's not too terribly bad overall. So that basically covers our gas and electric in the facility. So that's the only thing that really went up. We did go down some janitorial supply stuff. Obviously, with COVID last year, we kind of went hard with the masks and all the sanitizing stuff. So I think we backed off a little bit on that this year, knowing that we've got enough supply to kind of get us through. Dumpsters, a small little bit of an increase there. You know, that goes up every year for our cost of getting rid of our garbage and stuff for the facility. Other than that, I don't believe there's a whole heck of a lot there. The building maintenance, we actually went down on that as far as the building maintenance, went down about $1,000. We spent some money over the last few years, obviously. I do have some electrical work we have to get done with our pump system for our sanitary portion of the shop. So I'm going to work on trying to get that done this year. We started this year, hopefully we'll finish it next year with that. Other than that, I guess we can move on there for the machinery side. This is our new equipment side. So the DA 5130. At this point in time, typically we don't use our CHIPS funding. We're actually part of our CHIPS funding, which is our emergency winter recovery funding, which we can use for the purchase of new equipment. So again, I talked to Sarah and John and kind of thought that the way things are being purchased right now, we're looking at 13 to 18 months out before we receive anything. If we happen to get it ordered in time, we're looking at right around 13 to 18 month turnaround. So I'm looking to purchase a sweeper this year and also purchase a pickup truck with our typical yearly increase as far as what we would do for our machinery purchases. But with that being said, I've mentioned it to John and Sarah about taking the emergency winter recovery money, bringing it into this year's account. We'll purchase another pickup truck here within the next month or two. Again, we're looking at probably 13 to 18 months out. So we're looking next year before we get it anyway. But what we'll do is we'll take that funding and we'll cover it, carry it into next year, being purchased off of this year's emergency winter recovery.
This is replacing another pickup truck?
Yep, this is replacing one of the 550s,
Okay.
which we use for, we put small sander on it, you know what I mean, and they plow circles.
Oh, okay.
It's in the rotation actually this year. My fear is if we don't keep replacing as we have over the years, you see what's going on with the price increases. If we don't, it's just gonna put us that far behind a year, maybe 2 years, 2 years on the road. We're just gonna get hammered with it. I did put together a quote, I guess I put it together a spec right off of their website. Now that's the MSRP, you're looking at right around $63,000. But I would think on state OGS contract, it's probably about $10,000 less than that.
Mhm.
So I think by taking that 56,000, it should certainly cover the cab and chassis for that.
Yep.
So I'm not real concerned as far as that goes. Other than that, I believe we did have a little bit of an increase, but a $6,000 increase in our truck and car repair, basically our vehicle repair there. It's unfortunately, it's all the way around. Getting parts and getting stuff for this stuff has really become crazy. It's been quite a challenge for us. I'm a little bit concerned when the winter season, with what we're challenged with, because I've got a 10-wheeler right now that's sitting there with a radiator on it. It's a 3-year-old truck, the radiator, and everything's on national back order. So we're looking, and I called again today. We asked, what the order date as far as getting the parts coming, they can't even tell. So they have no idea.
Well, it's
So
across the
we
board.
could be 3 weeks,
Yeah,
we just
it's
don't know.
everything.
So, obviously, we're gonna have to increase that over the next couple of years, I think, just to try and keep more stuff supplied, what we have. And the unfortunate part, something like that, the VIN number for each vehicle is different. So each vehicle's got a different, just a slight difference, you know what I mean? But enough to, you can't supply, you can't keep that kind of stuff on hand. So, you're gonna run into the situation. Other than that, I think that's pretty much it with the equipment there. As long as everyone's good, we'll move forward.
Okay.
Question of the week, I think is fairly self-explanatory. This is where we use the accounts for when we do all of our tree removal stuff, our roadside tree removal stuff.
Mhm.
Basically, our roadside mowing, puts all on these accounts. All of our roll time, straight time, everything's pretty well the same as normal that we would do every year.
Is that pretty standard, the number of hours you think?
The number of hours is pretty much, well, we remember in brushing weeks, we do 2 weeks of brushing weeks. And so payroll basically is we do 24 in summer, 26 in the winter, and then 2 for brushing.
Oh, okay, okay.
Unfortunately, some years, because the brushing weeds, it runs into the winter season. So we're using it for plowing and sanding, all depends if they have an event or not. But we do Earth Day, that does come out of that as far as overtime, we do that 4 hours usually on that Saturday of Earth Day, or before Earth Day.
Okay.
So that's also calculated. But the big number here I think to look at, actually the seminary conferences for the tree commission there, that's where that money that we usually used in the past.
Mhm.
It's not very much, but certainly if anyone wants to do something there and they have before, we put that under the tree commission.
Thank you for keeping the tree commission
Yeah,
budget
it
within.
makes sense because every once in a while they do have something, some event that they go to, and
Yeah.
it's not a lot of money, you're talking $100.
Yeah.
But we like to keep that. for
And
them,
it
so.
might make sense also to keep thinking about institutionally how Sustainable Manlius and the Tree Commission work. I mean, Tree Commission is just this institutional piece that's been supported,
Yeah.
but we don't want it to become too siloed, I think.
Yeah, there's certainly overlap there, and I was thinking too with like grounds maintenance, like a lot of these, the natural environment that we're discussing, we talk about trees and things like that. There's so much overlap now with the sustainability committee. How can we maximize those things and use these institutionalized systems that we have to the advantage of the other work we're doing in other areas?
This is also, Heather, just so you know, this is where we get the root trees, comes out of supplies.
Yeah.
Account here and all that stuff, where all that overuse is coming from.
The grant money is not, the grant money that came in this past year is not
it wouldn't show here.
Right, because it's of course for next year, this budget,
Exactly, so-
but it
Yeah,
would be
when we
nice
get
It would
if
be
to
on our revenue.
Yeah, when you get to the
side.
revenue side, he'll show you how that, what we count, what we don't.
Yeah,
count.
and what's great, what I'm thinking is that we want to get to a place where we anticipate that these committees are applying for grants like
Sure.
regularly.
Oh, yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Yeah.
Okay.
So the contractual service here, it's about a 2.4% increase. That's, again, what we typically use for, when we work with our tree services, what we work with, and anything that we do, as far as our tub grinding out behind our shop, that all comes out of that contractual services number. So again, pretty small number of increase over the year, and considering where we are and how much everything's going on. So Clifton Recycling still has a contract.
Mhm.
I believe it's good going into next year too, so it's gonna be renewable next year, so hopefully that price should stay in the same ballpark.
Who's that, what did you say?
Clifton Recycling.
Oh, Clifton,
Not
that's
our
right.
other contract.
Yeah, that's,
Contract.
yep, I remember that.
So that's who we use typically. For a while, I believe it was Monroe County, a couple of counties that actually were going around doing it for other municipalities.
Yeah.
They just couldn't keep up with the cost of the equipment and the maintenance of the equipment was
Mm-hmm.
just too much, so. So we kind of went with the county contract.
This is stump grinding, you said?
Yeah, that's everything. That's that whole pile that we allow the residents, to dump behind our shop there, and what stuff that we get along our roadsides, all the takedowns, all that stuff goes there, and we do tug grind it, and then we get it back to the residents as far as the north side goes.
Okay.
So anyway, the next page kind of just shows the personnel and the brush and leaves, and I think it's the first time you see it in the budget, but I think everyone's kind of familiar on how we figure the budget here as far as those numbers, on how much you want to get into that.
That sort of is what it is,
Exactly,
And
it's all
these
contractual.
numbers are
Those
there.
numbers is contractual number, off of the contract. But we do, that's where you show, where we put in the 12 guys basically for 5 hours. I average about half the guys for that overtime for the day. So that goes into there. So that's why we come up with the total number with the 2 weeks of payroll.
Not to go off the rails here, but just curious, last year when you were split during COVID,
Yep.
did this change a lot as far as the,
We did do Earth Day, the numbers were down a little bit on guys, we just didn't have the guys, we only had like 5 or 6 guys that showed up. for it. I do it honestly, you guys know it. I do it on average, a 10-year average.
oh, yeah, right.
As far as the guys go, how many you use, it's the easiest way to do it. Instead of,
Yeah.
because you never know, next year you might have 15 guys.
Yeah, but that's good to know, because I,
Yep.
you know, because you
And that's how
never,
we do the overtime for winter. And that's right, it's all based off that 10-year average.
Yep,
How we've done that. Now, as we get there, I can kind of show you.
yep, no, that's perfect.
Rob, are all the members the same of the union, the same members of the same union, or are there a
Yep.
couple of?
It's all
yeah.
CSEA.
It's all CSEA, okay.
It's all CSEA, so
Mhm.
everyone's a member of that. So again, those are all contractual numbers. We keep track of those, so the guys, they have a scout program, so those guys that will be moving up next year are already in that cost. And we put that into the overtime, we put it into the personnel cost, so.
Mhm.
So I guess if we go along to page 5, this is the big winner here, usually every year. The winner counts for 5142 DA.
Mhm.
So that's your overtime there. We average roughly $200 of overtime per guy. We can get to that. I won't get into the overtime too much, but again, it's all contractual numbers until we get there. I'll show you. The big things to look at here is we do have a decrease.
Yeah.
If you look in the line down there for the salt storage or salt, clear lane, sand, lime, color, right, all of the plow stakes, everything kind of went down about $27,000, so minus 6.1%. We do have a county contract this year. There was no increase, or a very slight increase in our salt cost this year. And again, going off our average, we average between right around 10,000 tons of salt a year.
Right.
So we actually were able to take some money down away from there. The other number I want to bring to your attention here is the plow sander equipment.
Yep.
If you go back to the new equipment piece that we first started talking about, where the sweepers are and all of that, typically what we would do is if we were buying a plow truck this year, I know I can, you're familiar with, and actually, Sarah, you're familiar with it too. What we've done in the past is we would take the plow equipment, the sander, all that would all come out of this account. So that's why there's a decrease here, because obviously we're not buying
Right.
Plow equipment this year as far as that goes. We're gonna buy a couple small pickup truck plows, but you won't be spending that $100,000 on a big plow for one of these trucks. So you'll see that $65,000 decrease there. But on the other side, we've got a sweeper we're purchasing for $275,000. So
Yeah.
it'll show in that account, so it's the same
Be
money.
an offset.
It's just offset
Yeah.
and moved over to the machinery account. So
Okay.
I want to make sure that everyone's aware of that. Other than that, I think we're good on that. Again, the next page will show how we do the overtime and personnel cost. Again, it's all contractual. So we take, if you look at the bottom, the average, the 10-year average for 22 guys, is 205 hours, actually. I misspoke, I said 200 earlier. We're at 205 hours per man.
Yeah.
For the 24 weeks, it was the 8.55 hours per man per week for personnel costs. And the next page, I can read this for the double time. Basically shows the same thing. So we average about 8.29. I'm sorry, 8.43 hours. Is what we're averaging now for double time. Again, we just take so many days out of that are available for the Sundays and holidays, and we take half of those days, figure you're gonna work at least half of those. That's how we figure those numbers.
They go all the way back to 1999.
Yeah, it's interesting to look at those numbers actually. So
Oh,
go back
goodness.
those ways. I probably should tighten that up a little bit. You know?
Yeah.
No, it's like our municipal masterclass.
Yeah.
Make the numbers larger.
Yeah, that's the numbers, like,
Yeah. I mean, larger in size.
Yeah, right,
not
yeah,
in-
And the double time obviously shows the same thing here.
Yep.
We divide the number of guys, obviously, and divide that by the 24 weeks. Comes up to be 1.47 hours per week per man for double. So,
Yeah.
and again, as you all know, it's a gamble.
Yeah.
Some years you may be over, some years you might be a little bit less, but we do it off that 10-year average. So it works out, actually this year, we're doing off a little bit more than a 10-year.
The next page is my favorite, you know.
Yeah, this,
That's all about
this is always
salt.
a big favorite. I know when Jan and I first started doing these,
Yeah.
everybody kind of liked them, so that's why we keep doing it here. So, yeah, it just kind of shows the story of where we've gone over the last 10, 15 years.
And the cost, look at the cost
And the
per
cost,
ton. My
yeah,
gosh.
cost per ton continues to go up. I can remember, unfortunately, before this.
Now, that depends on whether it's state or county bids.
That's right.
Yeah.
We for years were on the state contract, and then over the last 2 or 3 years, we switched out the state contract and went with the county contract. And, my hat's off to those guys at the county level because we were able to lock into the contract 2 years ago now.
Yeah,
It's more than the third year of the contract. And they almost $20 less, our county contract is almost $20 less than the state contract
Yep.
at this point. So, those guys are working hard, and I know, I'm pretty sure Portland County jumped on board with it this year. I'm not sure if Cuba County did or not, but I'm pretty sure. I know they're doing the purchasing, the county's actually doing the purchasing for Portland County. I'm not sure if they're doing it for Cuba County.
I think it says,
What's that, sir?
okay, but I think they're purchasing for us.
Yeah, I think so.
and Rob, just a reminder, we do 111 roads, which includes.
Yep.
How many for county now?
We do 111 of our own.
Oh, okay.
We're doing about, actually, yeah, we're doing 111 miles, I'm sorry,
I thought that was total.
we're doing 102, and then we're doing about 10.8 miles, almost.
For
11
county, yeah,
miles of
yeah.
county road,
Yeah, that's,
that we're doing now, so, and again, that's all contractual, with the county as well, as you all know, that we do a contract with those guys. I don't know, I know we renewed the contract, and I can't remember if it was 1 year ago, 2 years ago,
I think it was 2 years ago.
and it was
We
for
just-
another 3-year contract. I think.
Yeah. And
So
what
I don't
we-
know, we're gonna be in the ballpark neighborhood probably next year, the year after.
Yeah, we had to do some negotiation,
Yeah.
because a few of us, our towns, like 5 of us,
Yeah.
refused to do it because they wouldn't bargain with us. And then when they finally did, because they said, wow, we need those roads plowed,
Well, when they realized the
they
cost.
came to us and they did go with an increase of 2% each year, and the severity, we never got the severity costs. They would get it from the state, but they would never pay pass it on.
Yeah. So
So
one of the things
that's
that
part of our negotiation with them.
could be included in the negotiation is looking at the equipment and sort of some sort of an, an agreement with- yeah.
And you know. it's
but for the
funny,
repairs that are,
Yeah.
for the emergency issues with supply chain.
Different counties do it a little bit differently. Some counties do time and material.
Right.
So they keep track of their time and material.
Right.
So the amount of time on the road. Other ones do a bullseye. So if you're in this area,
Yeah.
you know, depending on the county you're in, they'll do bullseye. So if you're in this portion of the county, we're gonna pay this rate, that rate. We were reluctant not that we came to an agreement to where it was a set number across the county for all of us.
When Rob, and I forgot who the other superintendent was, put these numbers together, but you have 19 towns with
Right.
different roads, different sizes. I mean, you take Pompey, they have actually more roads than we do, but they use sand up.
Right, and they're way
So-
less traveled, there's way less people traveling those roads.
So it's sort of a compromise
Yeah, so
process.
that's what we came up with,
Yeah.
but that's why I meant by allowing these guys driving the bullseye. Because say you had so much traffic in this number,
Mhm.
this is what you would get. So, and then we felt it was unfair to, we're paying the same rate, you know, in Pompey or.
I think the villages got the same
Yeah,
deal.
the villages got the same deal, anybody who's doing anything around the county
Yeah.
did that. And they seem to be pretty happy with it, I think they're pretty happy with what we did to that contract. In fact, I've had that conversation a couple different times since then. So-
And they went to bat for us too, because there was
They
like
did.
2 years, we didn't get anything from them, and I forgot who it was. When they-
Brian was the
Yes.
DOT director.
Right, yeah.
Brian Donnelly, and they went back and
Yeah.
looked at the state, because they were receiving funding from the state for EWR. And he went back and looked, and actually it worked out to, all the town's money.
Yeah, we got a pretty good chunk. Well, everybody did, but.
So I guess, the only other thing we can look at is
It's all
two
about
other
working
things to
together.
look at is the debt services, which we tried to look to say we have none at this point. So, I know we kind of keep a bit close eye on that, so we don't have any debt services, so we're looking at the summer stuff here now.
Yep.
So our summer budget, obviously, like, we are budget broken down between EA and DB, so this would be the DB side. Again, the overtime is all factored in with the amount of holidays we have in the summer and the chances of, you know, the storms we've had over the last 10 years. So that's how we kind of come up with those numbers. This is actually, I should have mentioned it earlier, we did brush and weeds, but this is another area, and I had a conversation, I was from Ed and I sat down. Diesel fuel costs, we have paid up, over the years, we paid $3.76 a gallon. So I do anticipate an increase going into this year. I mean, it's a gamble on my part, obviously. And a little bit of history, we kind of look back, see what we were paying. So we did go with the $3 figure across the board for all of our fuel for this year.
Yep.
So obviously, that's a pretty good increase when you get into the winter side of this. You're looking at about $11,000 increase.
Yeah.
So, but it certainly is offset, I think, because our salt prices stayed the same, so I'm pretty comfortable, you know, overall budget wise. But it shows a 33% increase in that line. But it's really not, it may or may not, it may be higher than that, we don't know, so. But I want to make sure that I pointed that out. Again, we left went up a little bit in our contractual, and that's basically our subcontractors, and we typically go off a county or state bid. We're going to pay them this year, they did quite a bit for us, actually. We did a lot of our own, but we subcontracted quite a bit of the main lines, unfortunately. I'd love to go out the main lines sometime, but it's just quickly to have those guys come in and do that for us. So there is an increase there of 24,000. I know the increase looks high, 6.97%. But overall, the total budget, I think we're okay there too, so.
Yeah, when you take a look at the last page.
That's where we take our contractual, I'm sorry. The road paint steers, every year when fuel prices are gonna go up, that's gonna go up because it's based off the oil industry, obviously. So we did do an $841 increase, again, it shows almost a 2.7% increase there. So it's not crazy, but it's not overrun, it goes higher than that too,
Yeah,
so.
it's good.
See what else we did here.
Tires, yeah.
Yep, tires is kind of cyclical every couple of years. You're replacing more tires some years than you do the next, so we've kind of watched on how that was going. There is a little bit of an increase there on our tires. Again,
That's like one tire.
what's that?
That's one tire.
That's one tire, yeah.
And you said the tires were cyclical, right? I just wanted to make sure I heard that right.
Exactly.
Is that a joke?
Gotcha. Sorry, I couldn't help it.
I know. It's good. Anyway, now.
I'm sorry, Rob.
Yeah, go ahead. I think,
Nothing else, there's really a huge increase there. Again, we can run down through there, but
you should run, I think you should run right to the next to the last page.
that's the easiest way to do it. This tells the whole story.
Yeah.
Go to page 7. I kind of break this down here. I start usually when I sit down with that man with this page, and then we go back to the budget.
Yeah, right.
I think Sarah and John and I did the same thing.
Yeah.
'Cause it does show the story here. So our overall DA combined budget's at 2.2% overall. So we stayed right around that 2%. So I'm pretty comfortable with where we are going into the budget season. And we worked hard, and it's so many different variables with
Yeah.
fuel, the increases in cost of equipment and or.
And we don't include winter severity in this,
No.
because we don't know.
No, we don't
That's a
know.
big part of it.
And I think, we'll get to that real quick when we get to our,
Garbage is there.
we'll talk about that. But again,
Yeah.
if you look at the EPA fund, I mean, that's a 2.2.
Mhm.
Our garage fund it shows that big increase there, but it's really not.
Right.
Again, the machinery, that's where we combine it. It's up more on the machinery side, but we took it down on the equipment side for winter equipment. So there's really, the snow equipment, you get a minus 3.18%. In the summer, we've got roughly around a 3.14%. So, and when you total average everything out, the summary, I'm pretty comfortable with the 2.2 across the board. So, you want to look at the anticipated revenues. Again, I talked with Sarah and John about this. We have no idea going into this year where we're going to be with CHIPS funding. I think that our best avenue was to go with what our average is each year. We've averaged about that $178,000. Could we get more? Sure. I just don't know where the new governor is going to be on CHIPS and what they're going to do with the funding.
Yeah, whole new ballgame.
Yep, so we got a new ballgame there. The equipment vehicle sales, I've got $40,000 in there. I've got that truck 32 in there. I most likely will not be selling that because we're gonna sell the sweeper that we're gonna replace this year. So they're probably gonna be a little bit more than $40,000 coming in. I can't, we're gonna auctions international, that we've done in the past. We brought some really good numbers from there before in the past. Our equipment's pretty well maintained. So we may do better than that, but I thought being fair, I'll leave it at $40,000. Again, I did the CHIPS funding, we left it alone, we didn't do EWR. For the emergency winter recovery, we didn't put anything into that because we just don't know whether we're gonna get any of that. Or any of those increases. So,
What about the county winter severity, where was that the 191 grand we got that the county
Yeah,
went after?
but
I can't believe that was,
there's no guarantee we're gonna get that.
I can't believe that was 3 years ago. I
Yeah.
could have sworn it
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
So we had one really bad winter, so we got money from the county.
Well, actually, they covered like 2 bad.
They covered like 2 or 3 bad years.
Yeah, they were behind in getting
They
the
were
money.
behind on debt payments, but again, there's nothing guaranteed, there's nothing contractual.
I
that
think they're
says
behind again, Caitlin.
that the state has to give us the EWR, so.
I think
And
we
there's
should,
no it's like severe winters, probably not well defined.
well, if
Exactly.
the county doesn't get it, then we won't get it.
Right, the
Right.
county's not getting it from the state, we won't get it from the county.
But if they think they should get it,
Yeah,
they'll go after them
Oh,
like
yeah.
they did this last time, so.
and again, we go every year, we start, we start way earlier than that, but we do go down there in March, the highway superintendents across the state go down. We advocate for funding, for CHIPS funding every year. We're in contact, obviously, with all of our legislators, all the town board members are all on board with it usually. So we get some time, we spend some time putting into this, and I think that for the most part, most of our legislators are all on board with infrastructure. And
Oh, yeah,
trying to keep up with
I
it.
believe so.
I think sometimes what happens is other things come before that, what's happened over the years. But we got nothing to complain about this year. We actually did good job by us. We did get more than we anticipated for church funding this year. Originally, when the COVID first started coming out, we
Yeah.
thought we were gonna have a 20% decrease.
Mhm.
Actually, we ended up with a little bit of an increase on all three with the Pave New York and the emergency room we're talking about. So,
I think it's a credit to you, Rob, too, for keeping such wonderful care and maintenance of all the equipment.
no, I won't take full
Everyone
credit.
does a great
I
job.
got the best secretary and
Mechanics and
Yeah,
really, the
they're
trucks
a
always
great group of
look
guys.
wonderful.
I've had the pleasure of working with most of them for at least 15 years. We've got some guys that have come in and I think you talked briefly about that. I'm still working with John. I've got a mechanics position open right now. Very difficult to replace the mechanics positions. There just is nobody out there. I mean, and no one who does the equipment side, the heavy equipment side.
Diesel
Because there's a
repair.
lot of fabricating that goes on, we get welding, we get electrical. So there is some concern there. I'm assured and I hope we'll find someone here before then. I've got a couple of these applicants, but we're gonna try and keep working through that process. I do have one guy who's gonna retire in October. Manny Alvin's gonna be.
Oh, Manny.
retiring.
He's been talking about that for a while too.
Yes, yes. So, obviously, we'll be canvassing applications again, and, we've got a bunch of them that are on the file. I did have a quick conversation with National Tractor School in Liverpool. And for the classes, the guy I spoke with, been there 28 years, working for the company. He had said that the typical class size was about 30 to 35 over the last 10, 15 years. They're doing the classes every 6 to 8 weeks, and they're getting 6 or 8 applicants.
Oh.
to take the class. And that goes from anywhere from a Class A license to a Class C. We require a Class B license to run with air brakes.
Yep.
For our equipment. So it's challenging. There's not a lot of people that are going out to do it. He's hopeful that when COVID kind of comes down here, that more people will come out. And I think there's a big call for it. A lot of it is the restrictions. You know what I mean? We are mandated by federal government. We have more than 20 employees as far as with CDL licenses. We're required to do random drug and alcohol testing. So,
Right.
now obviously we passed some laws in the state of New York, made it a little more difficult. So,
Yeah.
well,
See how that goes.
it is what it is. And I think it's going to be across the board for the state and for some of the other states. There's a huge slowdown in people with trucking. That's why I think a lot of our stuff, we're not getting it as quick as we could, so.
Heather, did you ask? Yeah.
I have a couple questions, regarding, I'll go backwards and ask that question about that first. It's expensive to do that training for folks, isn't it?
It is. Well, first of all, one of the conflicts that we have is obviously being a union body, we don't have a trainer. So in other words, the town doesn't have a trainer to train it. And as the town requires / civil service requires a CDL license to be an equipment operator, motor equipment operator. We do have labor positions. I believe at this point, we've only got 2, maybe 3, and laborers positions, which we typically use for summer help.
Right.
Or for our winter guys that come in and help out in part-time. So, and I've been lucky because I've been some of my retired guys who stayed on winter, they have kept their CDL licenses, so we've never had to worry about that. But, it's gonna be interesting because like I said, we don't have a training program. We've never had a training program. You would probably have to do something, in the lines where you'd have to have a trainer. You'd have to get it through the union. I think we'd have to be negotiated through them if that, and I don't know how civil services would work, as far as not having, we'd have to hire them at an MEO, or I'm sorry, a laborer's rate. And once they got their license, they would be able to move up. Like I said, I think right now, National Tractor School in Liverpool is right around $3,300 to get a Class B license.
Yeah, people don't have that sitting around.
Right, people just don't have it.
And then to take the time off from whatever job they are earning to go to this program.
It's a 90-hour course, I believe, that they teach, but with that being said, getting your license and then running around with plowing lanes and those
Yeah.
things. So, we do
gonna
kind of,
be
once you got the
challenging.
license, we have a program that we kind of work through. And we start off as a wingman and then we work your way up, obviously driving. You know, it just takes some time. I feel, I know, just real quick, Tom Poppy just had 4 guys retire on me.
Oh, gosh.
And only 2 of their guys now have CDL licenses going into this.
Yeah,
year.
they're gonna be
struggling to try and all of a sudden find CDL drivers, but again, okay, you get CDL drivers, but put them in front of a $275,000 piece of equipment with wings on it, and then go up in an area you're not real familiar with, you know, and middle of the dark, plow snow. So it's
That's
gonna be,
terrifying.
it's gonna be, I tell you, I've been doing this for a long time, and I would be a little bit leery about going up there. Not, I mean, just not that I haven't done it, but the fact is that if you're not familiar with the way the wind blows up there,
Yep.
it gets real bad at night.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, during the day, you could be going down and have just a total whiteout.
We're used to being in the valley. you know.
Yeah,
On top of
We've
the hill.
got, we've got
Top of
hills
Peck
and
Road,
we've got
maybe.
the north end.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
So,
So do you have another question?
I have one other, but is yours related to this?
No.
Okay, my other question is, thank you. I think we should really be thinking about that and working with you to plan for that. My question is about the salt shed. So it's really a question for you and Sarah.
okay.
Would the 16, so I understand there's about the $16,000 difference. Would that deplete the whole fund?
Yes.
It will,
Okay,
yes.
so why not consider asking for more in rescue plan funding towards the whole thing so that we're not depleting the entire fund and leaving ourselves?
Well, one of the issues since our conversation, we've been trying to learn more about what's allowable under ARPA, and this is not one of the categories that's allowable. So it would only be, we would only be able to use money we lost money between 2020 and 2021 money. We haven't
Right,
calculated how much that is yet.
got it.
So that would be, I don't know that there's gonna be tons of money available out of that category of money. And this
But it's also the
doesn't fit. But
infrastructure
infrastructure was specified and.
for new projects that were,
And salt sheds were not it.
Yeah.
It was
Okay.
water and sewer and it was not that.
okay, because I thought it was for projects that were planned before the date too. So, and this is something that was definitely in process before.
It was definitely in process before. So if you find that paragraph, please.
Yeah, I think we should pursue that.
Because you can do capital improvements, but they do have to be, you have to relate them back to
To,
COVID.
right.
Right.
Yeah, so there was a piece there, it was not an obvious match with one of the categories, so we had to do this other calculation, see how much money do we have?
Yeah.
That we can do that other rationale for.
Got
I
it.
think the other conversation that we had, John and Sarah and myself, was basically, you're looking at a 20-year, investment here before you're going to have to do something with that particular salt storage shed again. So within that period of time, we thought it would be in our best interest, obviously, to start putting some money in the account. And when we got to talking about that, obviously our building was built in 1980. And we recently, over the last, I say recent, everything's recent, 10 years ago probably now, that we put the roof on the highway department. So, we talked about maybe possibly a cold storage facility. We've got a lot of equipment that we're leaving outside. So these are some of the areas I think we really need to start looking at in the future, of having a fund where we can put some of that money up. And I believe that's how we came up with what we have now, and we kind of put so much money away in that salt storage, so knowing that at one point we're going to have to fix that. So,
There'll be a focus group for the departments and for town employees for the comprehensive plan. And so I anticipate that exactly this kind of thinking ahead would be really, really relevant for that and appreciate it. Thank you.
The thing I like to ask about is that the software where you had GPS marked all of your infrastructure and we needed to have access to that. So do we know if that has had any progress and should we be budgeting some money?
to be honest with you, sir, I don't know if Pat did find that information. I know we at one point had a lot of it on a phone drive. I don't know if Pat still has that on there, but we should definitely look into the future here with, legally by law, we're supposed to have all of our stop signs, all of our street signs are supposed to be GPS. All of our outfalls are supposed to be GPS, all the catch basins. We have them somewhere. We've patented at one point.
Right.
Somewhere better than nowhere.
Well, it was on the arts program that we had.
Yeah.
God knows how long, ago, it was yesterday for me,
Wow.
but, and I know that we had a copy of it. Unfortunately, we don't have it on phone drive anymore. But I'm pretty sure we had something with that at Pat's office. If we didn't, I think it's something we really need to look into. If not this year, definitely next year. Putting some funds away to put something down. Obviously, you'd be the expert on that probably, but. You know, to
Yeah,
make
it's
sure
really gonna,
that-
if we have the data, then we can probably.
I think we need, it's basically a data retrieval process. So there's some company that has the software needs to be able to retrieve it.
Right.
Oh, you mean like a drive's not working?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
So it exists, it's just that we don't have the upgrade and it won't talk to us anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was all with the licensing and all those kinds of things over the years. But we took like a crash course on ARPA and it was myself, Janet, and Pat. I think it was like a one-day course. And then here you go. So
Yeah.
we sent the guys out with the handheld GPS.
Yeah.
And we worked almost a full year on putting that stuff together. So we had the information. I know we had photos of our outfalls and all those types of things. So I know the information is here somewhere, or if not, I know there's programs out there that other municipalities are using that they can pull, you know, I mean, off GPS maps, right off the.
So let's us work on that and decide if there's some upgrade fee that needs to be included in this that would permit us to have that
Okay,
access.
yeah, that
A
sounds good.
license or whatever it is that we have.
You're referring to our PUGI
Correct.
program.
Yes, any of the RQ.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if the planning board, they have all that
That's
type
kind of
of
department.
programming, like they have that software.
It wasn't the same, it wasn't the same as
Is that the
RQ.
same?
So that's the issue, is everybody has a different version of something that's sort of the same, but doesn't talk to each other, and that's what
Right.
we're.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because it was all kind of piecemeal then, you know, this department needed this
Right.
department needed that. We're going back some years now. We kind of need this. Everybody's needs are a little bit different, so, which they still are. But I think the programs have come a long way since RQ too. So.
Okay.
And I think we have come a long way in terms of departments talking to each other.
Oh, yeah, yeah, that's for sure. All right, very good, Robin.
Thank you, thank you.
I can't believe you went to Starbucks and you didn't ask. about
I didn't go.
Probably,
Is it a mobile
there'll be a
thing?
late snow
It's a long
season.
story.
You still went there.
No, Kay went. Thank you, Kay. May I use the restroom? Excuse me.
I did a mobile thing. It was a long story.
Oh, yeah, he'll be done. Whereas the police will take one. Next year, let's put the police and the highway on different rates. It's too fast.
Yeah, we usually try to, I think we were trying to accommodate some of the other folks who weren't in town or.
When are we gonna start doing it? No?
No, not till after the tenant project is done, so I'll be working on that all weekend.
I know, that's not that long.
I was like, how much longer could it be? The years that we spent so much time
You only have
together.
to-
Okay.
But yes,
I need a lot
In your head, it feels like you have an insurmountable amount of work to do
I do
between
too.
now and when we meet.
Yeah.
Hello.
How was your day, Chief?
Busy?
Yeah. I have like saw so many posts on Facebook. All these different like community boards of people with pictures and I thought I had got all my information taken for others.
Does this change it off the last?
Yeah.
Minor.
It was a lot of confusion, but
compare
everyone
them.
take care of it.
Yeah, I have another one, a new
I
one.
think that was, they felt comfortable.
It ended well.
That's it.
Yeah, I knew there was a few adjustments there. So,
I want to start with Heather, but as everybody is perusing through the pages, I put it in order that I hope makes sense, but please feel free to ask any kind of questions. So the first page you see, which is entitled MPD 2022 budget, 2022 comparison sheet. I just thought it would be good to start off here. So our budget essentially is divided into various sections. 100 is essentially all personnel costs, right? Salary. 200s is really just vehicles only. 400 is incidentals, sort of like day-to-day budgeting matters, and then you see the total. And just to explain a little bit, and I can comment on it later as well, but in the 100s, they're all increases, but in the 100s, that's a fairly significant increase, only because I'll point out that, you know, we budgeted for a new lieutenant's position, right, which is a significant amount. And that's one of the reasons why you see a fairly decent increase there, as well as our 2 brand new special patrol officers. That's also reflected in the 100s. That's not terribly significant, but, you know, still an increase.
Right.
Unexpected increase, I guess you could call that. And then lastly, you know, there's a number of our officers that are carrying on in their careers now. And as you know, through the union contract, they get increases every single year from their beginning pay until they hit their final cycle, like a 6 or 7 year period. So this year we had some folks that graduated to the next pay level. So that'll explain the increases in the 100. Everything else is related, you know, to that 2.5% increase that was contractual. And then I think the non-contractual was a 2% increase. 2%. Yeah. 200s, the increase there, again, pretty significant. But again, sometimes I think that this year to year, from previous year to current year is a little bit ambiguous, just because the reason why I have a fairly significant percentage increase there is because last year we were cutting 5 cars down to 4. And we learned that we really needed 5 cars to continue the work that we do. So that increase really, generally speaking, is because we again went from 4 cars to 5. So obviously when you compare that from last year, because that last year's number of 2021 is 4 cars. So cars, unfortunately, these days are becoming rather expensive. And that also you'll see there was at least a 2% increase from all the manufacturers. They all do the same thing, whether it's Ford, Dodge, or Chevy. It's like 2% every single year. So going from 4 to 5 cars with a 2% increase, that's why that 200 seems a little high. And then the 400s, 8% is actually pretty good for us on the 400s. And later on, you'll see in the breakdown of the 400s where you'll be able to see exactly where those increases and some decreases occurred. But again, keep in mind, our new contracted position, the new property clerk, part-time property clerk, he comes out of the 400s. Unlike the other employees that come out of the 100s, right? So it's just so as long as you realize and recognize that we have 2 contracted employees and their salary, both of their salaries come out of the 400s.
That's the assessment, or I'm sorry, the accreditation.
The first one we had, which was reflected in last year's budget, so you're not going to see a huge increase.
Right.
But yeah, our new property clerk, civilian property clerk, that's why we made this notation on the bottom here. The $31,000 of that increase in the 400s is reflected by the new property clerk. So that's sort of an overall picture. And then if you go to page 2, now I start talking about revenue. And the first box there, you'll see a comparison from 21 to 22. There's a 13.2% increase in revenue. Mainly it's driven by the 2 special patrol officer positions. Yep. Okay. And then if you really look at the projected budget from page 1 minus the revenues, the overall increase really looks more like a 3.97%, which is pretty modest. Really. So just to give you some ideas on revenue. Page 3 is a line-by-line itemization of those revenues. Yep. And you can see the comparisons from throughout all the years to include 2022 and that 13% increase there in the revenue, mainly due to increase from 2 SPOs to 4. 100% paid for by FM school district, but I still recognize it as a revenue. And we do, that does cost the town some money, mainly administrative costs.
Right.
So,
Are they looking at 5? I'm trying to remember. Are they looking for one more SPO?
no, right now we're at capacity.
Right, okay.
Dr. Tice really wanted only 4
Oh,
SPOs.
yeah.
And then he has 3 full-time school information. Yeah, sideways.
Still amazing.
So he has another security meeting next year. Then
Yeah.
they wanna go.
Right.
I know that when they had their meetings, which was, consistent of many, many elements of the community, they all were screaming for more police presence. Anyway, so.
Okay.
The next page, a little confusing, but you'll see, again, the budgeted 100 section, which is, our 100 section is 85% of my budget, right?
Right. Yeah.
So that's a huge number. And when you look at that 4.94% increase there, and then you look at 100s only while considering the revenue,
Yeah.
the overall increase is really a 2.12%. You recognize that last year as well. Some of that has to do with the contracted employee, the new SPO position, the reimbursement that FM school district will provide to us for equipment and uniforms. There's some of that will trickle into 2022, so I put it in there as a revenue base.
Okay.
Some of that money may have to spill over, but it still needs to be recognized. Otherwise, it really looks like I'm doing a really bad job of working. So.
No, it makes sense.
So here's where it begins to get itemized on the next page. That's all 100s. And really, again, that's 85% of my budget, just that one little tiny page there.
Yeah.
But again, 2.5% contractual union increase, the lieutenant's position, and the 2 special patrol officers.
Yep.
That's why you see an increase there.
Now, just a quick question, because when we did this, we didn't have the lieutenant in there. You're going to have to replace her position, right, the sergeant?
Correct.
So
That's budgeted for.
that is budget, okay.
Question two, for the contract position on the property room, does that save us anything in salary? I know you talked
Yes.
about that.
Yeah, we had a civilian CSO, which is a community service officer,
Mhm.
and she did great. And when we lost Lynn in the front office, we gave Jay, that's the former CSO, we gave her the option. You can move over to the front office or stay as a CSO. If you want to move into the front office, and it was a really good move because she's doing a great job.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and I never refunded that position after we moved it. Plus, there was a significant savings with Lynn's departure. She was at top pay for
Yeah,
how many years did she have with us? Quite a few.
trying to remember.
And then I did balance out the salary for both Jade's position and our newest front office person, Rachel. And we recognized the savings there as well. So it really did cover the entire $31,000 cost for that contracted position.
Mhm.
In a way, we actually, and you won't see it in this budget, but in a way, we recognized savings. Ann knows more about that, but we talked about it initially. Because those contracted positions, they don't get benefits. And
Right.
if you look at Ann's budget, which is way more complex than mine, it shows things like benefits, retirement, insurance, any kind of longevity, all that,
Yeah,
whatever the
everything
case
you
may
have
be.
to, yeah.
We see none of that in the contract.
Okay, so a lot of that savings would be in that section.
Yes. So I think we're doing better in that respect, really, so. And now that I have the front office clerks like balanced out on a salary and helping with that one too, that'll be good for us, because we used to be on a step system and really nobody preferred that, so. Yeah, it was kind of self-corrected, which was good.
Yeah.
And the next page is just the 200s, and again, the reason why I see an increase there is because we went from 4 cars to asking for 5 once again. The car issue can be kind of complex, only because we try to keep our cars while they're in warranty the entire time. Only because if there's major repairs, engine, transmission, major stuff, they're covered under warranty. But once they get past the warranty period, they start nickel and diming us pretty good.
Mhm.
So we found in the past that, the newer you can keep your fleet, the better, the better you are on the backside costs for maintenance. Not to mention safety for, the officers,
And availability of actual parts for repair. Right now.
Yeah, we're mechanics that fix the cars when they do break.
Right,
So,
right.
I mean, we have a mechanic, but honestly, because they're under warranty, we don't want our mechanic working on warranty work, so
Yeah, right.
he does a lot of the more important stuff. So,
I have a question on vehicle.
yes,
Only did you?
My question was just how big is the fleet?
we're around 30 right now. That's every car we own.
And then if we're replacing them every year, or three, I guess, how many times are,
Probably 5
You
or
mean the
6 years.
rotation?
Okay.
Yeah,
Five or six.
rotation of about 5.
thank you.
Math is so hard.
It makes sense knowing the warranties and how those work.
Yeah. It just makes better sense to keep them within warranty. And now that we have these new, the new SPOs, they don't get cars.
Yeah.
They wanted cars.
Yeah.
I said,
Yeah.
I'm like, 4 more cars? No way.
You're like, no, they're not gonna give me 8.
No. The school might, but their budget's probably
Yeah, I
like
don't think so, yeah.
Kayla, we need 8 cars.
35 times my budget. Yeah, so
Yeah, that's a lot.
so they drive their personal vehicles to the school, and then if they need a car, they use the cars that the Cyros drive.
Right.
We have 5 Cyros though, and each one of them does have a car now. The school doesn't pay for those, and we did go back to the school, we went back to the well more than once, the cars, the phones,
Oh, yeah.
and
Then they remind us of a few.
yeah, that was ugly. So it turns out, like Dr. Tice told me one time, and Dr. Desiato agreed to it. It's like, we all grab from the same bucket, Mike, and I was like, oh, your bucket's a lot bigger than mine. But yeah, those cars, once they're out of the primary use, which is our primary folks, our field services control unit, essentially, they get handed down to all the various assignments too. And that's really like the last assignment that those cars see, because they're at end of life right at that point.
Remind me too, Chief, because we did touch a little bit on leasing when what was?
Yeah, I
generally
just
the
threw it out
conversation?
there as an option. I'm always
Yeah.
looking at better ways of doing business and being fiscally responsible, right? And I did learn about a number of agencies in other states, primarily Florida for some reason, is they do a lot of leasing. Now, leasing is good and bad. Like, these are municipal leases, so the good about them is it's not like a typical lease, like if you went to the dealership. There's no residual payments, there's no mileage penalty, over mileage penalty. And then at the end of the lease period, which you can do at any periods that you want, but at the end of that, we actually own that car. Now, at the end of 3 years, the car is not worth much, but those are cars that we can pass on to all the various other assignments,
Yeah.
So now I could lease a number of cars for the amount of money that I budgeted here to buy 5. I could probably go from 5 to 12, or maybe 5 to 10. I could at least double that amount.
Wow.
But then you gotta start talking about the upfit cost, right? So a car's
Oh,
about
yeah.
$35,000 on state bid pricing. The upfit's another 15 or 20.
Okay.
Now, you can incorporate the upfit cost into the lease, which is great, because at the end of that lease period, you own not only the car, but you own the equipment.
And I forgot that part.
Light bars, radios, computers, modems.
Yeah.
Try to make it a police car,
Yeah.
Yeah.
not
Would
just a new driver corridor.
Yeah.
Would you be open to piloting something like that with the new ones to see how it works?
Sure, I'm open to anything,
Do they give limits as far as numbers that they would allow you to lease, or is it any? you
No,
just wanted one.
we're a bank, they'll give you as much money. Now, that's the real true drawback, because I asked the guy, I'm like, wait, you're a really good salesman. I said, but I was born yesterday, so you gotta be making some money, you're a bank. So he's like, well, yeah, of course. And we did the math real quick, and they probably get about $4,000 a year per car. So to them, it's lucrative, and.
It's big buys, yeah.
Yeah, but they're out to make money. Now, the benefit for us is that I could buy 10 cars instead of 5, but I'm still gonna budget the same amount, right? So, and that budget will be extended over a 3-year period. So if we agree to lease this year or 2022, we would have to keep that budget amount in the 200 section. Probably 400, right, because it's a lease, maybe, I don't know. we'd have to extend that for the next 2 years if we selected
And then
a
you
3-year lease program.
And that would continue,
Oh, your
that
cars,
cycle
yeah.
would have to continue with.
So
And then at the
another-
end of that 3 years, you're able to finance over a 3-year period, but the amounts really don't change, right? I mean, the good news is at the end of the 3 years, you have somewhat of a function.
So at the end of life, at 6, do you auction? Do
Yes.
you-
Yeah.
We have to, by law.
And we're leasing the motorcycle right now.
Listen to what?
The motorcycle is
Yeah,
what
yeah.
we're doing now.
We don't pay for that
Yeah.
either. I get that out of another fund. You can't really tell a lot of people that. but
I have so many follow-up questions. for
Oh,
that.
Start with your original one.
Yeah, so, I was curious if you've ever looked at electric vehicles for the police
I
department?
started looking into them, yes. In fact, I know it's coming, so I have to start my research.
Cause I mean,
We're getting there.
some of the, certainly I think you certainly could not make a whole fleet electric. I don't think that the technology is there yet. And so you having them all plugged in, would be a lot, but it's.
Village of Manlius probably would love that. Because their electricity.
Yeah. And I have an electric vehicle, I plugged it in and my electric bill definitely went up, like it was noticeable. And then I moved into my new house, which has solar panels, and now I don't pay to drive my car at all, which is great, but someone has to pay for the panels, you know, it's like where you're putting your money. But you're still paying for something somewhere. But I think that like a couple of these vehicles, Elaine could speak to this as well in terms of the electric vehicle charging equipment, but there are quite a few state grants available right now where we could get cars for free.
Well, I actually have a similar question, but I know we're not quite there for electric, especially because at the village, we don't have any chargers. But my question was, have we looked into hybrids?
Yes,
Because those have
I
been
look at
around for a
EV,
long
hybrid,
time.
and gas powered.
But
I'm trying to put together a.
There are state and federal incentives, but we wouldn't qualify.
But even then, even if
Because
we
we
get
don't get taxes.
if we get a hybrid, or we get better I mean, we're saving on fuel costs, which. are
Yeah,
always
but
going
if
up.
I wonder, I don't know, there's gotta be some type of way that we could do it. I'd have to think about it more. But
Welcome to do all that research.
I mean,
Well,
exactly.
it's more like how does the municipality take advantage of tax credits? And then there are certainly could be ways to do it, especially if we're talking to the dealerships of how they could help us where they're taking advantage of tax credits and then passing the savings on to us.
And you can't buy a car from a dealership because we're a municipality.
And you still have to equip them. Yeah, and the electric car has to be
Up to par
be
with
able
all
to
the
equip
equipment.
that, and they get
What do you
a
mean
good
you can't
sized
buy it?
vehicle. So I think you're
We're a
right, I think we're not
municipality,
there
government,
yet.
so we have to
you
buy
know,
a state
with-
bid.
I think we should be preparing and planning because
Yeah.
we have to get there.
The hybrid would
I
be
think
more.
starting
make more
with a
sense.
hybrid
Yeah.
is at least a
It's like
good
a.
stepping stone.
Yeah, a
In the
good
meantime.
starting point, I thought, would be if maybe we purchased hybrid administrative vehicles.
Oh,
Not for the investigators, but maybe for like the command staff,
yeah, right,
right?
right.
So I think that'd be a good starting point if that's where we wanted to go.
So when we replace
Definitely.
cars, I guess who gets the new ones? Is that who usually gets the new ones? Or?
No.
No,
Okay.
the opposite.
No.
I know,
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking.
No,
How's that
the
work?
new ones go to our primary function. field
Yeah.
services.
Driving.
And if there's money left over in the budget, which typically there is not,
You get the hand-me-down.
yeah.
Well, I think
So,
what would be
but
great is if
we should be planning, because if it's not this year, it'll be next year. We
You're
need to
right.
be
That's what I was
able
gonna
to-
say,
agree.
maybe we
Yeah.
can go look at some of these vehicles, figure out what upfit costs would be, if they can handle all the equipment. And then that gives us a whole year next year to start
Yeah.
looking at grant opportunities and all that stuff. 'Cause
Yeah.
That would be a really nice.
I've been reading so many articles, John, and I'm not trying to be funny here, right? But reality is that the best police package, electric vehicle, is a Tesla.
Yeah.
That's a little high.
Yeah.
That's a little too high.
Now,
Can
Well,
you
they're trying to
imagine-
break
gas
into
powered
the-
car is $35,000.
Yeah,
Tesla's
yeah.
like
Already,
double,
you know?
right?
Wow.
But they're trying to break into
Yeah.
that area, that's why.
Ford is trying to now.
Ford,
Yeah.
I have a
I
Ford.
think the
Haven't had
taxpayers
luck
might be
with
a little
Ford,
freaked out,
really.
but.
It's fine, you
But,
get-
like, they have an F-150 right now. that's a
The
hybrid.
Ford Link, we
That
have
would-
the Lightning next year, get a full EV.
I don't want to explain that one, right?
Hey,
I had a hard
Linda's-
enough time with that Dodge Ram. It was cheaper than all the other cars, but.
You're 0 to
everybody gave me a hard
60 in
time
what?
with that.
You're 0 to
They're-
60 in, you're 0 to
they're-
60 in
they're
1
fast.
1 minute, 1 second.
Oh,
right?
see, I have
Yeah.
my Mustang, it's not like a Mustang for anyone watching who thinks I drive like a real Mustang, but it is a Ford Mustang Mach-E, so it's fully electric. And you put it's not the gas pedal. I had to stop calling it that because there's no gas.
It's a pedal.
You put your foot on the accelerator, and you can go very fast. I'm amazed that none of you have pulled me over yet.
Remember, police cars also drive typically 24 hours a day.
Right,
Yeah,
that's what
yeah.
I'm saying. I think that it could be used for some of the purposes. I don't think you could turn the entire fleet electric, but it's something to look into sooner rather than later in terms of what we can get in terms of grants, but I can't necessarily search it up because I don't know what your needs are. So I wonder if like
It'd be a good project for next year.
Yeah, absolutely.
the
I
other police
think that-
departments, if you hear people talking about it, please let us know. what
I've
you
been
find out.
researching it. and
Yeah.
There's a nice white paper I downloaded a couple weeks ago. and It had a lot of pros and cons. It was very informative. And it wasn't slated one way or the other. It was just information. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to avoid the ones that are one way or the other.
So let's,
It's hard
So
to
we'll
find
keep
on
that
Twitter.
conversation for more next year. but
Yeah.
We can really do the research.
Yeah, I
this
mean,
year.
it's funny, it's coming, it's like something that's here, right? Like we've talked about all this stuff for so long, but now we're like, oh yeah, let's go buy a fully electric
It's-
police
It's less the
car.
purchase of the
Yeah,
vehicle, it's
marijuana.
more the logistics.
Leasing.
Yeah.
in that particular-
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll talk to the planning board because their job is to help municipalities with energy. So they might have a sense of what's coming in terms of EVs for,
Maybe
Police
they
department.
wanna look at a pilot.
Hybrid, I
Maybe,
think,
you
is
know?
the best option right now, till the technology.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We're not opposed, I'm not opposed.
Yeah.
Does Kalia have any guidance on this in terms of green?
No, Clea doesn't spend a lot of time on sort of like the nitty gritty, if you
Yeah,
will, or,
yeah.
you know, purchasing. They
Yeah,
don't want to dictate purchasing because
Yeah.
they're a not-for-profit, they can't really
Yeah.
push.
This is
one
more
button over another.
operational and,
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, they do, there
Administrative
are
work.
standards on, you know, being fiscally responsible in your budget process,
Right.
but
Yeah.
I've always been that way, you know, that's why I'm not opposed to looking at, you know, different projects, so.
well, we're applying for a SAM grant right now to get 2 electric vehicles for the planning and assessment department. So,
That's a good start, I think.
Yeah.
yeah, so
Now, they
we'll.
won't get the
and-
wear and tear of the police car.
Right.
That's
Exactly,
true.
yeah.
And plus they're running constantly.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's,
But
That's why the transmissions,
that's also a plus to go electric, so we can stop putting
But
those emissions into
the
the
reason
air.
why they're running constantly though is because there's so many electronic
Yeah.
pieces of equipment in there, that if you shut it off
They
for
would run the
30
battery
minutes.
down.
it'll kill
So
it.
the charging is the issue.
That's
That's
where I
right.
think the
Yeah.
capacity.
that's why the
Absolutely.
hybrid is a beginning.
I
Yeah,
feel like
you
a really
need
long
something.
extension cord, like at the back and drive around, would be great.
Oh, there's something called Spark Charge. Oh, there's this great company. It's like a startup and they have this mobile charging.
It wouldn't
Yeah.
work for that. I'm
No.
familiar with that company, but the technology is
Yeah,
evolving.
let's go on, but-
Yeah.
So
Anyway,
can we
okay,
move
John's
on?
moving us
to-
along. He
Are
wants
we
us to
done with
talk
the
about this
vehicles
next
for
year.
now? Are we gonna move on to the, what do you want to do, the next thing?
Yeah. It's
Contract,
up to you, but the next multiple pages are all 400s.
Yep.
Yeah.
And just to try to simplify it, blue is, it remained the same cost-wise. Red was an increase, green was a decrease. And feel free to go through that at your leisure.
So I have a question. On the furniture replacement, like I see that's like a new, or the increase or a new line. How does
I
that
can't-
not,
I didn't hear any.
the
of the
furniture
first part you said.
replacement,
the furniture replacement, why doesn't it fit under general office supplies, storage cabinets, chairs? It's like the last.
What page are
one.
you on? Elaine?
The first page.
one?
So page
Yeah.
1, right at the bottom.
Yeah.
I didn't understand like why office desk didn't fit on that second line.
So the second line, the third line you're looking at there, the 8785, that's
Yeah.
just the operational costs, haven't increased that for a number of years, that's just what it costs to do business at the PD. The furniture replacement that we listed there was specifically for our front office desks,
Yeah.
for our clerks.
Oh, okay.
Those are hand-me-downs that we got from a
Oh.
business in the town or the
Right.
village actually,
Yeah, I
and
did.
reaching the point where and the top surface was literally just worn.
They
Alright.
need their
Yeah.
other-
That's
we
pretty
replaced
Trying
it.
to- Trying to make their work environment more comfortable,
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
functional.
I got confused
Long
because
overdue.
it seemed like the same line.
But that's a good question.
Long overdue.
But if you look all the way back, I mean, when you consider that there's the extra 31.2, everything's pretty stable in that.
Yep.
in
Yeah,
the
that's why you didn't see a big, that 400s, you only saw an 8% increase in 400s, and most of that's cost of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
But just things get more expensive all the
yeah,
time.
we have a lot of police officers that wear multiple hats, and some of them are, you put them in charge of sort of different projects, you know, and they go out and research, they actually budget, and then hand it to Cap Schaefer, and then he hands it to me when it's done, and, but yeah, they go out and research increases,
Yeah.
they're almost always increases, rarely we see a decrease, but.
I don't see any major increases other than, you got more police coming in, so you have an increase in police academy.
Yeah.
Training schools because we're filling positions now.
Correct.
So that
Or,
makes-
or anticipated or projected loss,
right.
which we always lose people. for
Yeah.
one reason or
Yeah, there's always.
Did postage go up this year yet?
It went up at the end of August.
Aren't we gonna
Okay.
buy like a bunch of Forevers?
That's all I do. I just keep buying forevers. I have no idea. Just keep.
That's what the chamber was doing. They were going out and just like.
But I
buying
think we use
Forevers.
a meter, like,
Right.
I don't know. I learned, I didn't even know the chamber could, that you could do that. You could like bulk buy Forever stamps.
So I had a question on page 3. When it says like upfit new patrol cars. Like last year, again, you had 4 vehicles instead of 5, but this is like, again, if you're looking at this current year, it says 5. So if we can make sure that matches the correct amount of cars, that could be good.
We can make whatever adjustments are necessary.
Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Like, because then you're just,
Well, we
Yeah.
asked for 5, so we put up it for 5.
yes,
No,
but
the
last
two,
year.
yeah, last year's number.
Last
Oh,
year
yeah.
it didn't get changed,
Yeah, we
so that's the only thing.
we did miss that last year, my apologies.
So I just wanted to make
we-
a note.
We did use that funding for, we upgraded some stuff in our cars.
Right.
I got a couple questions.
Yeah.
Sure, go ahead.
Are you done, Elaine?
Well, yeah.
So on the mag lights and the watch guard in-car cameras that are both dying at the
Okay,
same
yeah.
time. Well, the mag lights were at the beginning.
That's page 1.
Oh,
Yeah, page 1 of
Red
the.
or pink.
and the watch guard is on page 3, I think.
But they're, what are they and why did they die?
Oh, that's a legitimate question, and I'd be happy to explain it. So.
We
a
should
mag-
just go, start at the beginning and just go through each one.
A mag light.
Of the
That's a
bullets.
mag light is a name of a company. They make very reliable flashlights.
Mhm.
We haven't bought the upgraded version of flashlights in quite some time. So now all the lights are LED and they have a longer life and they keep a longer charge. The old mag lights were these big flashlights about this big and they had rechargeable batteries, but they weren't like the nickel cadmium or whatever batteries
But they're
they have
actually
now. It's an
batteries.
advancement in the technology. And we were hoping to replace a lot of the old ones with the new ones. And again, like cars, I guess flashlights are like cars, right? So when the parts break, then you have the budget for the parts to fix the old ones. So sometimes it's just best to
Right.
purchase.
Do an upgrade.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Do the new ones like, do they have like a charging port that they go into? Or is it still, yeah, that makes perfect
Yeah.
sense. You don't want half your flashlight in charging ports and half with just.
yeah, because mag lights
Old
smart,
red
they're like
battery.
anybody else, they make
Like the
different
cars.
parts for different lights.
Exactly,
Forcing
yeah.
upgrade, right? It's-
Are those like what you see in the movies or TV shows where they got like a big black flashlight and
That's
they
the
like,
old
with, like.
The long ones.
Yeah.
Is
They
it-
still use those. They should modernize
Only you would
Brooklyn
catch
Nine-Nine
that.
episodes because they're inaccurate.
Oh, they catch it. That's true. All right,
And then the watch guard in-car.
and then the watch
cameras.
guard and camera,
Which page is it?
that's on page 3.
It's a 400 and 412.
Yeah.
It might have been my fault.
Snuck it in there.
We can blame you.
Yeah, you can blame me. That's, the numbering is probably my fault. It's in the vehicle repair section.
Oh, I
Because it's
see.
replacing watch guard systems that have been in cars for more than 5 years. And are just, are reaching end of life. Oftentimes, again, watch guard has upgraded the system, so when you go back, you can no longer buy parts to continue. repair. I mean, in all actuality, given how complicated each of those systems are, 5 years is a pretty good lifespan. Because it's an electronic system that's constantly.
So this is
starting
a
to stop.
camera in the car?
It's an in-car camera. So you have a camera that faces forward, you have a camera that's in the back seat, and you have microphones in both of those locations. Well, sorry, in the back seat, and a microphone in the main compartment as well.
So this is the one that shoots out through the windshield so you can see what's,
Correct.
and watch guard is the brand name.
Watch guard is a brand new.
And 5 years goes by fast, I'm telling you, it's amazing.
Our body cameras are also watch guards, a company out of Texas, they're really good.
So I have a question on the body cam. We have one for every officer.
Yeah.
Is there, I mean, they're not on shift all the time. Is there a way they could,
So,
how does that work?
yeah, so you have to remember the technology.
Yeah.
Maybe John can help out, but they have a battery in them that needs to be charged.
Okay.
So you can't run them 24/7 without charging them. But in addition, and probably more importantly, they collect a lot of data. They're recording onto a small hard drive, right? So at the end, they dock them,
Mhm.
which does two things: charges the battery, downloads the data.
Okay.
Data download can take some time.
Mhm.
So it's either charging from the docking station inside the building or it's charging directly from the car. But there's really never a time that we could have. you
It's
know,
not like uploading to the cloud. like,
Yeah, right. So
Oh,
we have the
that
number
would
of
drain the
cameras
battery.
that was recommended by the manufacturer to cover all of our officers and all their various assignments.
And I'm assuming that data that comes from that particular camera is ID to the officer it belongs to.
Oh, without-
Yeah.
Like a login function
Just
or
the fact
whatever.
that there isn't a cutoff of it's this officer's data and then this officer's data.
Yeah,
That would-
I could imagine that would
Yeah,
get,
the overhead of that would be.
Yeah.
The technology is, and it's actually, they've done a really great job, WatchGuard, that is, you know, if we get an incident, we can do searches in the database and say, I want all the officers that are on scene at this incident, between this time and that time, and it just bam, it shoots you everything. From the car, from the body camera, multiple tracks, it's pretty nice.
Yeah.
It really pays off when you have a bad thing.
I'm sure there'll be a model that has like a harness that you can, like, it's a generic harness that everybody gets one, and then you plug the working stuff in. But they have to burn out the people buying these cameras for another 3 or 4 years, and then they'll switch them all.
Right.
Thank you for giving us that glimpse ahead.
Oh, yeah. it's
Well, I
gonna-
was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like, they've got to be upgraded and changed
Oh, yeah,
and
listen,
improved.
With all these things,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna sit here and cane code it. I know the police department's very expensive. I'm sorry, but I mean, I see it right here in black and white,
No pun intended there.
blue,
Running the
green, and
best
red.
police department.
Okay, so
budget wise.
I got one other
You
question.
got another one,
Yeah.
Sarah?
We also have ET cameras. What makes an ET camera
What page are you?
different?
Oh, AT cameras. I remember
Upper
that.
right hand corner is page.
It's the end.
I have 3.
Page 6.
Page 5.
It's a 465 code.
Page 6.
Page
Yeah.
6.
Page 6?
Camera in green.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
So there's a red one,
Red
and
one,
a
Yep.
green one, and a blue one.
Extraterrestrial.
Yeah, the cameras, the flash, and the lens.
So we needed to replace the main ET camera,
What does ET stand for?
evidence technician.
Thank
Okay,
you.
that was the question.
That was what they really wanted to know, yeah.
When we have, anything from a car accident to a homicide, we have to bring a camera and photograph things. So
Right.
Yeah.
Those are all digital.
That was the question.
Yeah.
Okay, and then my other question has to do with community relations, I guess. It looks like the only thing we're doing in community relations is child car seats. That's on page 5 in the middle.
Oh.
I think that's the only thing that actually has a cost.
So is that a,
Isn't that something we get grants for?
yeah,
Mhm.
is that
It's a
separated
offset
because
in the
it's
revenue.
offset by a revenue cost, a revenue?
I'm totally lost. I don't know where you're at here. What?
I
Page
think-
5.
Page 5?
It says community relations under.
Oh, in the white, that's a category.
Yeah,
Right.
And then the child car, the car seat program.
But the,
Yes.
but that's a separate, see that, oh, I get it. No, wait, I said.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
reimbursed
It's
by-
all this, it's the Halloween and all this stuff. okay.
Correct.
Mhm.
So with the new design of the community relations task force, the 3 officers.
CSU, Community
CSU.
Support Unit.
Support unit. Why aren't they doing something in this category?
They're so new, I haven't tasked them with budgeting yet. So we're trying to project as best we can. I'm sure that those CSU members are gonna have some wonderful ideas for the 2023 budget. Because cops are really good at that. So, which is great, right? But, so I anticipate it will be further itemized next year.
Could I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Given the really sad instances of firearm deaths through suicide and the safety issues around having firearms in homes, and you being the experts, would you be willing to look into a partnership, a program around gun safety and storage? I know that and I don't want, and this is not a partisan suggestion, but the one that I'm aware of that has good data around it is the SMART program. SMART, but that every town, I think, is a part of too, and wants to take action too, but that isn't my goal is just that I understand that one. Would you be willing to, if we bring you examples that are from multiple sources, would you be willing to have the team look at those?
Always.
Okay, great. And I think the school might be interested in too, but
But I can assure you, we've been doing that for quite a few years.
Yeah.
We have gun locks that we give out for free.
Yeah.
And those are programs that we generally get funding for, through, grants and other participating agreements. Things that, you know, a priority for us.
yeah,
Plus, there's a lot of other things we do when it comes to guns that maybe other police departments don't do that I think is important for the community, so.
yeah, we'd love
But
to.
yeah, any kind of new program like that, especially if there's funding associated.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd be happy to look at it.
So I think the partnerships, I haven't approached any of the home and school associations within the school districts. But I mean, they are the ones that could be partners in the school with the CIROs and SPOs and on something like that too. So if it's a way of the CIROs and SPOs and the CSU officers and the school districts.
It would be a great project for CSU. As long as I can keep that new unit fully staffed.
Thank you so much.
And then the last page, so don't let these numbers alarm you too terribly, but I'm proposing another, like I call it a capital improvement budget, right? These are things that are above and beyond our day-to-day ops, right? Day-to-day operations. I couldn't possibly budget for any one of these things over a period of time. It would take me 15 years to pay for that. And at the end of that 15-year period, all the technology is changing, right? So just to give you a little historical perspective, Onondaga County, I don't know, 10 greater years ago, decided they wanted to go to upgraded radio system. And it was a digital, it used to be called the 800 trunk system. I'm sure the technology has improved by then. And Onondaga County, I think, received some grant funding, perhaps. I don't know how they paid for it. Honestly, I wasn't really involved in it, but they provided every single police department, EMS department, and fire department with radios. Portable radios, mobile radios, modems, the whole kit and caboodle. It was like a multi-million-dollar project. All those radio systems are now end of life. That would be great if Onondaga County decided to do that again, but that's not in the works.
Right.
In fact, they told us that, look, this is a one-time purchase, town, village, agencies, both EMS, fire, police, you're on your own. You're gonna have to, over time, replace these things. And we have. We budget every single year. You'll probably see it in this budget in the 400s for portable radios. But in order to replace, 30 plus portable radios over over a 10-year period, if you will, and every year we're buying 5, for 38 police officers, 40 police officers now, our SPOs carry radios too. That's, again, it's a math thing, right? 5 divided into 40, that's the amount of years that if we continued at this 5 a year thing, right? Now we can do that, but unfortunately,
There's a lot of that clean break.
yeah, and the radios are not only are the end of life, but they're end of service. We can't. United Radio is the one who won the contract, and we bought all these radios before the county paid for it, and they also bought a contract with United Radio, which was awesome because if we had a radio that would break, we would drive to the radio and say, fix it, and they wouldn't charge us, which was wonderful, but they don't do that anymore either, right? So they did pick up some of the funding on some modems. They're very expensive now too. That's different than a radio. So anyways, I really wanted the town to consider a capital improvement budget. Now, I'm not asking for all of this. I think that would be a bit much.
Which one is your?
Yeah,
top
priority.
Yeah, he
So
did put those.
it's a little out of order. So I would say priority 1 is the mobile radio. So the difference between a mobile and a portable is the mobile goes in the car. The portable, we stick to the police officer, right? So that would be number 1 for mobile, only because, Kevin has done a great job over years budgeting for portables. And we've replaced some, but we're still lacking.
So the mobile is number 1.
Correct.
Chief,
Number
would
1
that-
priority, number 2 enlisting.
Would that be like with the quick response issues that we did with the committee and everything, Kevin? When we're looking for communication between the police, the fire departments, the schools, highway departments, I should say, highway, DPWs, would those fall under the portable? Or would they be under the mobile?
Yes and no. So, right, it's always the answer to any
Yeah,
kind of
right.
technical question. So we can communicate with fire on our portable and our mobile.
Okay,
We can communicate with EMS to a certain extent. It's all really controlled through the 911 center. We're very fortunate in Onondaga County to have, well, your aunt, right, aunt?
My grandmother was
Grandmother,
in
that's
911 for
So
her
we're real
whole
fortunate to have an advanced 911. So they ensure that we can communicate with one another. That's what they call it, interoperability. Thank you. Radio system, but it's aged. Now, the only group that you had mentioned that we can't communicate with is DPW. They never jumped on the wagon, if you will, when the county was giving out radios.
right.
And the school as well. Now, we do have communication in the school because we have police officers in the school and
Yeah,
they're one
right.
of our radios, right?
Mhm.
So that's a great thing.
What
So
about our highway?
our department does not
We
communicate,
don't-
we can't communicate with it.
Because
Other
it's
than
not a
sound.
digital service, I think. Is that the digital under the?
Our radios are digital.
Yeah, and theirs aren't.
But
Yeah,
I think
like
this is,
either
if we're
UHF
talking about a
or
capital upgrade, I mean, I think this is where all of the fire departments, just got the brand new. Did you know that?
I did not.
Okay, so
And they got a
they
grant.
put in together, so all 4 fire departments went in together on a FEMA grant, and they just got,
Oh, our fire departments. Oh, okay, I thought you meant county.
No,
I'm still
just the
thinking
town,
county.
just.
Okay.
Our
Okay.
town.
so they got new radios that they're
Okay.
getting now, and so they're gonna be
Mobile or
upgraded.
Portable, because they do the same thing. They carry mobile.
I
and
think it's the
portable.
whole.
Mobile are in the trucks. The portables are the ones that are on there.
Yeah, I can look into that.
It was 500.
Yeah, well, they're in the, I think they're in the same boat we're in, because they got those
It was the same thing, they had the
radios 10 or
county
12
book and
years
they all
ago, and they're all
expired.
outdated and non-serviceable also, so they had to. do
Just looking to
something.
see if there's any options like that.
I know,
Looking
they
at
got a
grant.
grant.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about using some of the ARPA funding for some of this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
Oh,
but
that
I
would
think
be-
we should look at including highway.
Yeah,
If we're
absolutely.
gonna upgrade the system, we should.
At
upgrade the
least,
system.
yeah, at least for each
Well,
truck.
that's easier said than done, right? So,
Yeah, because they
again,
have a
it's a
system that
countywide
works. with them.
system. And
Because
the
it's
county
911 right now.
would have to make the decision to allow DPW's highway departments to come onto the system, right? And if we,
Really?
we just can't make that decision. as a
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's all going across that.
Same frequency.
Yeah,
or
but
whatever.
it's
you
not like
can't-
they're gonna
the
be
highway
on that,
department can be talking about
but they're
plowing.
not gonna be on that same frequency all the time, right? Only during emergency times, right? Isn't that what? how we
Well,
do
you
it?
can do it in a way where they have their own frequencies on the side, and then during emergency, they can flip over to a countywide
Right,
frequency. That's part of the process as
Mhm.
well.
Could
But
we-
again, it's, once you jump onto the county system, you need permission from the county to do that.
Okay,
And they have to have compatible radio systems, like if they all went out and bought, I don't know, like Harris radios or whatever, there's so many different radio companies out
Okay.
there. They may not be compatible with the county system, so I hope they did the
Yeah.
research, because if they get all these radios, they can't communicate with the 911 center, that's
That's
not
good
good.
Not a good radio.
So
I'm
can
sure
we
they
give
did
that to
that.
the critical incident group to do a little research on that? Talk to the county?
Yeah, I'll just take care of it.
There's gotta be someone at the county who
Thank
can
you,
answer that
Kevin.
I
question.
mean,
clearly.
we're not the only town that's ever thought of this.
My also, my.
I mean, I don't
concern-
mean to get too much in the weeds on this, I just wanted to.
Yeah.
If we're, well,
Some
we're budget,
comparisons, yeah.
it's,
The
Yeah.
budget's full of weeds.
So my,
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
concern too is
Budget is
if we
full
do
of
buy
weeds.
all of them at once again, then we do need to make sure we have a plan to know, oh, they're only good for this month, 10 years.
Mhm.
And so that way we're building up to it and we don't have to.
Yeah, I think municipalities and even the county, for that matter, anticipated that the county would handle this expenditure the next time around. We all anticipated wrong.
Maybe the county could use their ARPA
I
money.
know,
Yeah.
right?
that thought just crossed my mind. Could they have
Oh,
economies of scale that they could use for all these municipalities and
Yeah, they're
apparently.
Maybe
89
maybe
million or whatever.
Maybe
the
the
heck
second letter.
It sounds-
The addendum.
It sounds
Yeah.
like an easy way to make sure there's even better communication and service.
That's the
Like
whole,
a
that's the whole
no-brainer.
thing.
Well, and I mean, 911 is, and like, the more that things are uniform for them, the less that they're dealing with idiosyncrasies across departments, and,
Yeah, it's
That's
better for
helpful.
them.
yeah, and it elevates.
Could we bring that to legislator Hornquist?
Oh, yeah, yeah, in fact, we did talk about that,
Mhm.
yeah, we talked
Great.
about discussing it.
All right, so
You use ARPA funds to replace those for new ones now. At the same time, in the year, you could develop your capital improvement plan, because we keep talking about these capital improvements. I think you really need to start designating those accounts. You have to identify
Yeah,
Therefore,
what the purpose is for each of those capital improvements.
Before you can start the. fund.
Correct, so then you could start the clock on building.
A new
those
fund.
budgets
Mhm.
for those every year.
It would-
We seem to get to the end of the year at budget time and we're always up against something. and
Yeah.
So I think you know, you have the ARP funds available and it indicates in preliminary research that radios would qualify.
Mhm.
So.
That'd be great. So chief, then your
might
second
be able to-
choice would be the portable, right?
I'm sorry.
Your second choice is the portable then.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, and then what's number 3?
2, 1, 3, 4. So 3 would be the
Duty
The
weapon.
duty
the duty
weapon,
weapons,
and the
which have
in-car
again
radio.
aged,
Okay.
and then 4 would be
Yeah.
those 7, replace those 7 aged in-car video systems.
Perfect.
What happens to an end-of-life duty weapon?
An old, end-of-life duty weapon, I'm sorry, I thought you said NAA. I don't know what that means, but,
I don't either.
They get traded in to the weapon manufacturer. We would pick in this case, our firearms, lead firearms instructor did the research. He identified a company that sells weapons, and they would agree to take all of our old weapon systems in trade, and then give us credit towards the purchase of the new systems.
Because they can
That's
take
why
the steel and everything else probably and, or use, I don't know. But I don't know what happens to them
Resale.
afterwards, but a resale, yeah.
Yeah, that's why the figure is relatively low for 40 brand new pistols.
Yeah, because you get the trade in to offset
It's like trading in a car.
it. I was very surprised how inexpensive the guns were, so that makes me feel better. I was like, those are some cheap guns. Like, I mean,
I
the
love it.
radios are $5,000, but the gun you get for $20.
Gun people aren't listening.
Yeah, right. Don't let them hear
It's
that.
like, oh, you gotta charge them more.
So we
Well, thank
pretty
you.
much wrapping up.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's good.
Don't hesitate to call.
How many polygraph tests are you doing? Just curious.
Well, it varies.
Yeah, that went
depending
up,
on
didn't it?
how many times we call the polygrapher. So
Yeah,
if you have a heavy year of hiring, it's that number. If you have a lighter year, it's less.
So
Yeah,
this is polygraph tests for new employees.
yeah.
You're not just polygraphing
No.
citizens.
No.
Well, we could. If you want to
Hey,
add
are you
the button,
volunteering?
just scribble that in there.
Are you volunteering to be?
Oh, we-
I've been watching a lot of Brooklyn Nine-Nine
Oh,
recently.
geez. Okay, I get it, yeah.
We do that, but it's not something we budget.
Okay.
Chief, that was
Those costs are
great.
absorbed by, we don't have a polygrapher, it costs way too much money. So
Right,
we don't have machines to do it because it's a certification you need to keep renewing and et cetera, et cetera. So we reach out to neighboring, not neighboring, but larger agencies that have those resources, and we would coordinate with them.
Okay.
So if
We
you
can do that.
Can we start budgeting for a psychic? Let me know. That's like, I'm watching shows.
oh, boy, oh, boy.
Thank you, Captain.
Sorry, for a psychic from time to time. That is number.
Yeah, cool.
And that is the budget.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Chief.
Have a good night.
Kevin, very good.
You know, I know that this is budget meetings, but I just have so much fun hanging out with you guys. The laughs that we're doing.
Oh,
Like, I have a nice time.
How are you?
the
Now
rest
that
of it.
Rob Cushing and the chief has taken all the money.
Yeah, these numbers are really shaking us up.
And not to start to talk about electric vehicles again, but one solution could be NEO if it comes to the United States as expected in 2026. They have the electric replaceable batteries that you would put in, so that may be able to bridge the problem.
Oh, like it's charging and
change
you
it.
can be swapping out the
Yeah,
battery.
you pick it up and you put it in, so you would be able to go to, like, in Florida, you have Wawa, which has the chargers installed.
Yeah.
You'd be able to go to like the Wawa, be able to get the battery, take yours out and put the other ones. That would be-
Oh.
It's all coming, wow.
So you want to be on the sustainability?
Well,
You'll be in Florida.
Those
It's gonna be
batteries, those that
sustaining
haven't-
itself.
I'm involved in very- I've been privileged for
Yep.
the last 20 years to be town judge and 10 years before that, as village of Fayetteville judge. And we presented I'm not a candidate for reelection, so I'll be done in December 31st. I appreciate the support that I've gotten from not just this board, but the last 5 town supervisors. And the thing that's always struck me is, and what I'm really grateful for, is that not one time during during that time, has any of the board members or the supervisors ever tried to influence in a political way about anybody that are arrested? I think that says a lot for the different people who've been elected. So for that, I'd like to thank you, board members and the supervisors that served before.
Thank you for your service. That's incredible.
And night black hair. But at any rate, we presented our budget and at any rate, you see we're asking for a very small increase, and the increase we're looking for is primarily for one of the clerks who's down there. And much like I'm looking towards retirement, without disclosing personal personnel matters, at least one of the other current clerks may not in the next 4 years be retiring. And I can tell you, for those that I don't know, I have a law office in Manlius, and if I was to need a paralegal for real estate or for estate planning, I could put an ad in, and I would probably maybe get 25 applicants. Maybe 4 of the applicants would be worthy of an interview. But if we had to hire a court clerk, there is no paralegal or court clerk training program, and you really have to try to steal somebody through somebody else's clerk. So we have the woman, Megan, I'm sure, I started last night, but I don't know Megan's last name, Vando, I think it is, and she's been with us for 2.5 years. She's overqualified, but she's a stay-at-home mom. She likes the hours, the flexibility she has, and she has a master's degree. She's smart as anyone in this room, I would think, and she's underpaid, and we're quite frankly believe we may lose her. But you might say, well, we won't get rid of the increase, we'll stay at the set rate, and we'll see everybody else is looking for whatever the set rate might be. And I know as elected officials, I was there, we always said whatever the other elected officials took in line. But we're asking for special consideration for Megan, because if she leaves, it won't be my problem, because I'm not going to be here, but my successor, Judge Maloney, will be trying to steal somebody else's court clerk. And there's all kinds of things that go into it that it tends to be like a cottage industry that you only learn on-job training. So I would respectfully request that you give whatever consideration for that you can for this very small thing. There's other unknowns in our budget request. You know, I really wish that we didn't have to do Zoom, but we had it last night. It's kind of come along okay, but it just isn't the same as having the people come to court. You know, you literally see people waiting for the case to be called, smoking cigarettes or no shirts on or whatever the case may be. So I think it does knock down the lack of respect for the whole system, but it's something we're stuck with. So we haven't had any police officers or court attendants costs for the last year. And so I don't know the backup of things that may, it's a variable that may increase or not.
Yeah.
I personally disagree with which I'm not here, so but I don't depend on mine, but I do just want to go on record. I feel a little uncomfortable having the town of Manlius police be the guards, because I think that it creates a appearance that I'm uncomfortable with. That if I get a ticket from Officer X, and I show up and I see Officer X checking me in, kind of doesn't look as straightforward. My co-judge doesn't have a problem. Whoever follows me, they can register, but it's in the budget, and that's where we are. But I wanted to just call it, and create some kind of issue. But having said that, there's also problems that we've had about trying to find people, because there's an issue of liability. And today, right, we lawyers like to talk about the blood-sucking clients, not the blood-sucking attorneys. And at any rate, you know, I can understand that some of the people who we try to get before they have problems that, you know, if it was an incident, they will be sued. But my understanding is under the insurance policy, but not employees, they're kind of on their own.
Yeah.
And for $25 an hour, you really want to put you in that situation. So that's a whole issue that unrelated to budget, but I just wanted to call to your attention. The other thing that I wanted to ask is I expect that in the next 3, 4, 5 years, there's there's going to be a push to consolidate the courts. And I don't have a dog in the fight, but I really ask you to consider, please support the town court system. And I can tell you individual stories that maybe y'all want to get home to your families or whatever you want to see here, but I'm happy to tell you different instances that I think there is a difference between, Johnny Jones or Mary Jones, who, being fictitious names, who maybe was 17 years old, or 18 years old, or 19 years old, get do something stupid. And they have to go down to the city of Syracuse to some consolidated court versus coming here. I also believe that, if Mary Johnson, or whatever the name you want to attribute to, gets a speeding ticket, in small claims, that I think we are the court that's closest. And I know that myself, I probably went up to the high school prior years, told about 100 times, going to talk to the senior classes, brought some of the district attorney's office with me, and other judges have done that. I think that that's important, much like I think that I would rather have the people in the town of Maine deciding the budget for this area versus having, like Florida would have a county type representation. So my request to you people is that the issue of consolidating town courts, it's town and village courts comes up, and consolidating the village of the town is another issue that could look at it.
I think that's mostly what I've heard is consolidating the town and
Well,
village court.
what you're going to see the states going to come out and say consolidate, particularly in the more urban areas. You would have an issue with like Hamilton County, Essex County, places like that, where geography, won't be the difference. But you're going to see this push, and I really hope that before and a lot of good reasons can be enunciated why you should consolidate. But I think when you break it down, you have to ask yourself, do you really, is it really going to serve the dollars that you may save generally don't add up to what the effect is.
Judge, what about the specialized courts that they've talked about? And can you speak to that too for a moment?
Well, we do have specialized courts, and they tend to be more for the felony type things. You do have domestic relations, you do have a drug court. The drug court, which the district attorney's office, we can't direct something to drug court that goes to felony. There's a great effort, in my opinion. Somebody gets arrested, typically we have the person plead guilty to the charge of the understanding that you complete a drug treatment program. And if you then complete that, then you can then pull back and get that relief. So that gives them some kind of incentive. I've served on CAT court in a number of times, which have consolidated agreements. That helps. But I use that as an example of why I don't want consolidation, because it's one thing if somebody gets arrested and they get arraigned, but it's another thing when you can kind of look more. You also have the veterans have a court, which I really don't have experience with, but again, that tends to be more lead, like you said. I think the problem that I see doing the downtown arraignments is that you have a level of poverty that I think that sometimes we don't appreciate out here, but also you have many of the people who are arrested have psychological issues that transcend, cause criminal or result in criminal acts, but, either because of drug addiction and or mental issues that the people have had. That last night we had a case that was sad. Well, it was a sad case. A family out here in Manly's, prominent family. Some people are prominent. Their son is got arrested, and his family is created havoc, so they have an order to show cause. And there's one particular attorney who I give a lot of credit to. It's almost like a passion. He takes the people who have psychological issues or whatever, and he says the only way to find him. I mean, this person has a better package charities, phone that Catholic Charities gave him, but he hasn't been to the Catholic Charities in like 2 weeks, and the phone, he hasn't lost it or whatever. So he said the only way we can find him is to go to the different prominent corners in Syracuse to find, see, because he panhandles. And then recently today, I heard that he was arrested coming back to his home where his parents had him arrested. So there's issues that really, the person gets arrested for it, but there's issue beyond criminal intent. This
Understanding
is-
the background
in
and
this-
in a more
this-
localized way helps.
In
Yeah.
this instance here, is counterintuitive in sound. Sometimes someone being arrested is good. And you might say, well, how could that be? One particular instance I know stands out, a person who was on a soccer scholarship to Siena College. No offense if you like Siena. He was arrested. He had 2 DWIs, and at that point in time, we said to him, you got your choice. You can, have trial. You know whether you were or not, or you can go do the drug treatment there. The parents may quit Siena, come back here and go on the point. And maybe 3 years ago, I was standing in the supermarket. He walked up and he goes, "Judge O'Leary?" I pick up here, go get punched.
Oh my gosh.
I said, "Yes, I am." And he says, the fact that I was arrested and you gave me that ultimatum, caused me to, recheck my life or whatever. So again, that's something that wasn't psychological, but it was a habit that he had developed that we had to stop.
So let's get on with the budget now.
I was trying to talk quick, so I can try to push you away.
We will definitely keep that in mind.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's all good. That's all
Yeah.
But
good.
at any rate, so
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Any other questions, but I think it's pretty straightforward. I appreciate everybody's time.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
For
Thank
wonderful,
you.
wonderful years.
Thank you for all your service.
Yeah. Well, yeah, except for we didn't go over the budget.
Yeah, we did. The only
Yeah,
change
there's
was
no
the
change.
increase.
Everything else is the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, we didn't really talk about.
The letter that was
Yeah.
included
Yeah.
talked about the rate of
Yeah, I know, I
pay.
have all that.
Yeah, that
But I
letter,
mean,
for me,
I
that-
thought we had questions from about it.
yeah,
I
pretty
don't,
straightforward.
You're good?
I'm good.
I'm good.
I'm all set.
Do you have
Yeah.
questions? We can go get them.
No, that's all right.
John
I
can
just,
run
I wanted to ask about if they had their 2% in here. But I didn't see the judges. had
Yeah,
that
it said,
2%.
it
I
said
didn't
that,
see
No,
that.
no, the
Did you?
judges at the same level.
Did I miss that?
No, you're right. They're at the same level.
the judges are at the same. So
Oh, it's on the.
5% for the full-time clerks and then the larger
Just
pay
under-
increase, the adjustment really for, and the retention really
Yeah.
of the other clerk.
Oh, I got it. Okay, all right. I missed
So-
that. All right, well, that's good.
So that's what he's asking for. Now, we don't have to agree to 5%.
No,
Everybody else
I, there's some discussions we had with Janet on that, so we could share that at another time too with you. I think when we get together,
Well, I was glad he shared his perspective.
yeah, no,
Personnel,
that's
what
good.
he thinks is going forward. So
Yep, yep.
that's key.
But, no, Megan's, yeah, she's done a great job down there. And, I don't have much of an issue with that.
No, it's hard because this idea of workforce and pipeline is so
Yeah.
relevant everywhere, it seems.
Mhm.
Well, and with the hiring right now, I don't want to get stuck in a position where we're short people.
We're already.
So-
And I think too, we've talked about consolidation with the villages, but it's up. to the village. But I think his concern is, we're gonna be
Consolidation with the county.
consolidated too,
Yeah.
but I don't know if they're.
I haven't heard any rumblings of that, and it doesn't sound interesting to me. I would be
No, I
very
haven't.
interested in the villages, but
Right.
So I just
Yeah.
wanted to follow up with this example of being how we maintain an even salary thing. In the budget meeting, we did talk about hiring a equity consultant
Yes, So-
to evaluate everybody. So it wouldn't just be this one person.
yes.
But it would be all the clerks and all the everybody else that we would do
Yeah.
something.
Yes, and I wanted to report to give you an update on sort of where, resources around that. The New York State Department of Labor had, I did some research to see if they had some consultants or guidance.
Mhm.
They don't, as Anne probably knows. She's probably done the same. And so there are both national firms and then like local HR through advisors. So what we can do is, the next step is, I think, I haven't asked any other municipalities if they've done any of these, but I was going to ask, try to provide some information and background on those two approaches of having sort of a local that can be really hands-on, or a national that can sort of do it in a more algorithmic way versus a more personalized way. And so, what I think is really interesting and important is that there's this longer term planning plus the ARPA funding, because we could do adjustments, but we still have to plan for the future, no doubt.
Well, everything, when we got together to talk about ARPA, there was so much overlapping between budgets and ARPA budget, and it was going back and forth. And
Yep. Some municipalities have hired consultants to help them with that part of it. I don't know if that's something we're interested
no,
in,
I
but
think we'll be the consultants
Yeah,
there.
the thing that I'm worried about is that the communication between our pot, so to speak, the villages and the county, because it seems like if we don't have really good information about what kind of changes they're making and how they impact us, it will affect the outcomes without us really, knowing. So if there are changes, the fire is a perfect example. That's FEMA money, but that kind of big change.
That's a good point, because
something.
as the chief said, we don't even know if they're approved under the county.
Right.
Yeah. So if we have one of the things I know they recommend is a task force. So I think we need to set into motion a task force to have the people
To
working on
coordinate what
and coordinate and get that
everybody's doing.
information from
So-
places.
That's a good idea. I think we don't have to spend the ARPA money now.
No.
So I think most of this is 2022 planning.
Yep.
And that gives us time to do some kind of coordination with at least the villages, and then probably some sort of overlap with what the county's doing, like
Yeah.
especially with the web stuff. I mean, the county should be-
Absolutely.
Yeah, we-
Sewers 1000%, but then, to understand the
Yep.
villages plan.
I just got an alert that they were police searching for a man with, who robbed the Citizens Bank this afternoon, and they're looking for an armed.
Oh,
We'll look at their alerts.
chief was telling me that they know the laws, so when they go in and they don't go in with weapons, they just give you a note. And then you leave with the money, and then you get arrested.
what happened
But
to
They didn't
Thomas.
arrest
That's what
you.
happened to the M&T.
Yeah, right, exactly what happened, yeah. All right, if we could wrap it
Thank
up, we don't have to, we'll just adjourn.
We don't get to adjourn.
Yeah, we didn't really.
Meeting ends.